Welcome into the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. I'm really excited about today's show, folks. We have an exceptional author with us today. And I'm privileged to have this author on. In fact, we're planning on having her back on in the beginning of June for her brand new book. We're covering a book that came out a little bit earlier this spring. And it's a reissue of a book, a classic book that she had out in 2009 with some updated information and some very important information at that. Due to the case of Wayne Adam Ford, who this book is first written about. Name of the book is Body Parts, A Serial Killer's Deadly Compulsions. My guest today is Caitlin Rother. Let me tell you a little bit about Caitlin, and we'll get right into it, because this book I found absolutely fascinating, chilling. This is one of the most chilling cases, I think, in modern history that we've heard of when it comes to a serial killer. One of a man who's absolutely demented. We'll get into it here in just a second. Caitlin is a daily newspaper reporter for almost 20 years. She has written for Cosmopolitan, the Los Angeles Times, the Daily News of Los Angeles, the Chicago Tribune, the Boston Globe, and the San Diego Union Tribune. You can't get more impressive than that. She's also a Pulitzer Prize nominee. She now writes books full-time. Caitlin is the author of Poison Love, the authoritative account of the Kristen Rossum murder case, and the novel Naked Addiction. She has won 3 awards in the Best of the West contest, which judges stories from major metropolitan newspapers in the 13 Western states. She also has won 5 awards for a narrative that tracked the progress of all 5 recipients from a 12-year-old organ donor, including a Best Feature Award from the Associated Press's News Executives Council and a Best News Feature Award from the Los Angeles Press Club. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't get much more impressive than this on this program. Let's welcome in Caitlin Rother. Caitlin, thank you so much for being here today. It's my honor to have you here today.
Well, thank you. I just want to say those awards are all from my journalism days.
But
those are about, 20 years old, but thank you.
But still, I'll tell you, people pick up a copy of Body Parts, they're going to be wondering where the major accolades are for this, because I'll tell you, this book is going to blow you away. I think this is one of those books that,
it's difficult to read. It was difficult to write, and I've been hearing from people who are reading it now who haven't read it before that it is very difficult but important to read.
Well, let me tip my cap to you for this, because I think there are a lot of authors who get into this for maybe the wrong reason. Maybe they get into it for the titillation. They get into it for the psychological aspect.
Yeah, not me.
Not you. And you put this in the book that you do this for the victims, and explain to people how you put it.
Well, I feel, so this edition is a reissue with 32 pages of new developments. So just a couple of years ago, and it takes a couple of years to get a book republished, even if it's been published before, it still takes a while to get the new stuff out into another book. So 25 years after Wayne Adam Ford killed his first victim, whom he dismembered in the bathtub after he killed her, cut her into pieces. So this is a horrible thing, right? I had a really difficult time writing this book, but I felt like, I really wanted to know who each of these victims were. He's a long haul trucker. Why did they get into his truck? What made them do that in the first place? So he picked up these troubled women. They were often sex workers. They were using drugs. So they got into his truck willingly. And I'm sure, he said he was going to pay them. They were going to have sex with him, too. But they didn't sign up for the kind of sex he then proceeded to have with them, which was much more violent.
Yeah.
So he would, choke them out, make them unconscious, and bring them back with CPR repeatedly. So, I can't even imagine how horrible that was. And we know this because he let one of his victims go. and she testified at the trial. So we know what he did to her, and he tortured her. He did horrible things that I don't even want to say out loud. Honestly, it's so awful. But she survived, and she was brave enough to testify at the trial. And this first victim, whom he did not let go, but he cut her up and put her body parts into bodies of water. And one of the arms floated out from where he put the body parts, floated out to the beach. So one arm was found there. Her torso was found in a slough, which is kind of a brackish mix of, salt and fresh water. And a kayaker found this torso. And so they called this victim Torso Girl affectionately, or Jane Doe. And so 25 years later, this victim, who had no name, her family did not know what had happened to her because she had gone missing, but they tried to report her missing in Tucson, where the rest of her family lived. And the police would not accept a missing persons report because they said, well, she's voluntarily missing because she's taking drugs and we don't really know she's really missing. So they wouldn't even let her be reported. So if she had been reported missing, her tattoo that she had, which was pretty unique, a band of roses, she would have gone into a database and she would have been identified that way. And it would have been much easier to have figured out who she was. But so 25 years later, after her cousin, Jeff Cummings, he was dabbling in genetic genealogy with his sisters and doing a family tree and that sort of thing. He purposely submitted his DNA profile to GED Match, which is one of those genetic genealogy websites that people, use as hobbies. But this one is specifically, you specifically give your permission to have your DNA used to solve crimes. So he specifically submitted this so that, with the hope of identifying his missing cousin, and it worked. So the Humboldt County Sheriff's Department had, picked this case up again 25 years later as a cold case and was really trying to solve it. And they did. And they matched her DNA with his DNA, called him up. Hey, do you have a missing relative? He said, yes. And then they tracked down her sister, who is, again, even closer genetically. And she took a test as well. And that's how they confirmed it. And so Carrie Ann Cummings, it's now identified. She has her name back. She's no longer going to be called Torso Girl or Jane Doe. And her family has closure and knows what happened to her. And as horrible as it is, at least her sister knows now where she is. In fact, I just sent her a signed copy of the book. She helped me out a lot. I interviewed her several times to try to really get some detailed, who was Carrie? Who was Carrie before she became a victim? And that's what I tried to do for every victim that I write about in every book that I write. But this one in particular, where was their mindset? What kind of mental state were they in that made them get it in a truck with this man?
You did sit down with, and we'll get to Ford here in a bit, maybe in the second part of the program. Let's focus on Carrie Ann here, as long as we're talking about Carrie Ann. And I apologize. I had a long weekend of yelling for my nephew this weekend at a hockey tournament, so my voice might be a little rough this Tuesday. Pardon me. By the way, he did score a couple of goals this weekend. That's why my voice is a little rough. So when it came to sitting down with, I believe Kathy is her name, right? Her sister.
Yeah, I didn't. I spoke with her on the phone. But
yeah. So when Kathy's talking about Carrie Ann, she's talking about a girl who was brilliant in a different way. That she, even though they said she might have been, the school system, traditional school system describes her as a slow girl, which she was not. She was brilliant at mathematics. She was a girl who was
art.
Yeah. Wasn't she able to figure out like a math problem?
I think the point of what Kathy was saying is that she didn't do well with traditional testing.
Yeah, right.
So, and she had a speech impediment. And so she basically, what it sounds like is she had a learning disability that didn't really track with regular curriculum. So they tested her and they found out she was intelligent.
Yes.
But she just didn't do well in regular school. So
Right.
it turns out that she was very talented and her main interest was art. So she clearly was more into kind of, conceptual, visual, as opposed to, maybe language or, whatever. It's funny because when I was growing up, I actually tested really well in math. And even though I'm a writer, I actually, according to tests, I'm better at math, which is the other side of the brain. So those tests,
Yeah.
whatever. So but she didn't want to go to college, and so she finished high school, but she didn't want to go do any more school, and she didn't want to have a regular kind of job, and she just wanted to be a free spirit. And she just wanted to go hit the road, and she ended up hanging out with the Rainbow Gathering people.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know if you know anything about them, but from what I heard from a friend of mine who actually went to a Rainbow Gathering many years ago, but I don't think it's changed all that much. And this again was still, 27, 28 years ago, even with Carrie. They just get together in nature and commune, and they sit naked in the stream, and they, sit around and, don't want to be part of the rest of the world, because look at the rest of the world, especially today.
Yeah.
All the technology and the AI that gets things wrong, and, and I won't even go into politics, but I don't blame her, frankly, for wanting to get away from it all.
I don't either. I guess the sad part with Carrie Ann was, there was a little bit of mental illness, and I think at one point in the book it stated Ford does say she was a little messed up like me. Is the line he used.
He said her brain, basically wasn't thinking right. It wasn't quite focused, kind of like me. So two kindred spirits whose brains were not quite right. But it's sort of tricky for me because her sister and her mother had some depression that was diagnosed. Carrie Ann started using psychedelic drugs with these Rainbow Gathering people. So it's difficult to tell just on the face of it, was she mentally ill, or did the drugs make her have symptoms that mimicked mental illness? Because that can happen, with drugs.
That's a good point.
And, for example, when you take meth, and you take it for long enough, you end up having symptoms that mimic schizophrenia. Mm-hmm. I don't think she was doing meth, but she was doing, I think, psychedelics and hallucinogens, LSD, and I don't know if she's doing mushrooms or. Ford said he found something in her backpack that he thought looked like heroin. I don't know if it was, I don't even know whether she was ever using heroin or not, but I'm just saying she definitely was acting strangely. She came back to see her sister this a couple of years before she went missing, and she was acting very altered. And was, she stuck herself between the refrigerator and the wall. She was cutting her arms. She was hurting herself, and she was seeing things and having magical thinking, according to her sister. And so they took her to see a therapist, and the therapist did think that she possibly had, schizophrenia. So like I said, though, it's tricky to tell. Was it the brain, or, just organically, or was it the drugs, or was it both? I mean, it was probably both.
Right. And I'll give you that, because you're right. There are, with certain people, you introduce that into someone's system, and it does accelerate that,
among all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
What's interesting, and where I was going with this is there's a part in the book where she takes her government IDs, cuts them up and buries them. Am I getting that right? I
don't know if she cut them up, but she buried them in the backyard of her parents' house. And then her parents sold the house. And so they didn't realize that she had done this until after they sold the house. So that was another reason why she wasn't identified, because she didn't have a driver's license. She had buried it.
Yeah.
So she had no ID on her.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of a, sad series of events, the perfect storm of being lost forever, but it turned out not to be forever, thankfully.
Yes, thankfully. And again, thank God we have DNA testing, and as much as people want to harp on 23andMe and which, by the way, is facing bankruptcy court,
Now that's the scary thing, is what's going to happen to all those people's DNA. Now that's because in this world, I'd be retrieving it right away.
Well, now let's
taking control of my own DNA.
Let's talk about that for a second. Do you think, in this day and age, Caitlin, do you think that a company like Ancestry does come along and say, you know what, we'll buy out that bank and we'll incorporate it with our own? Because there's an opportunity here.
Yeah, they could do that if they had the money. I don't know. I mean, who knows what negotiations are going on? But I hope something like that happens, because I would not want to see a bunch of DNA floating around. Who knows who's, without anybody responsibly taking charge of it. I don't like that idea at all.
Right. Because that's
like a bad science fiction movie.
That is.
Not even a bad one, maybe a good one, but with a plot that.
But you're right. There's a huge propensity for evil to happen here with all that information.
That's the sad thing about our world today, and that's what I say about AI as well. There's all kinds of people that think AI is so great, and I have from the start just like. If people were better, if human nature right now, if I was seeing more positive, behavior, I wouldn't worry so much. But unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of not positive behavior, and a lot of people who don't seem to have a conscience, and a lot of people who are doing a lot of bad things. Ooh. And there's no rule of law and order. And it's just, I just started writing fiction because I just couldn't take it anymore. Just like all this darkness that just kind of got to me. So now I'm writing thrillers, which, it's more fun. It's less stressful, and I can just make stuff up. And then it's, if somebody dies, I know it's not real.
Right. Well, on our supernatural news segment, we dedicate a whole segment to the AI thing on our paranormal show, because it is a truly real thing. I mean, there was a clip this past week with that I've gotten. A lot of our listeners have sent this clip of this robot swinging its arms and practically beating up workers at a plant this past week. I mean,
that sounds like right out of that Will Smith movie. So did you read that story recently? It's just like in the last week or two that something like a 74% error rate now, these hallucinations that AI is having. So it's not getting smarter like everybody predicted. It's getting dumber.
Yeah.
It's making more mistakes.
Yeah. So
maybe they'll stop thinking it's the greatest thing since ice cream and fix some of this, because
Right.
That's partly why I just said, "Oh, forget it," because I ran a bio of myself. It was completely made up. It was just full of stuff about some other people. That it was just taking things, combining things of like me and other people that were not me, and maybe they were authors, but they were writing other things. But it became me. If you looked at it online, and people just use that, oh, this must be the information about you, or they find an old site and then they come up with really old bio stuff and they miss all the new stuff. And so it's just, I just go, oh, that's AI. Somebody just is making mistakes, or they're not looking in the right place. And so I think it's dangerous because they're not people like me who are trained to fact check and know how to do it and don't just blindly accept whatever comes up.
Right.
That's fine. But most people aren't like that. They're not trained to do that. They're not professional researchers. Yeah. If I want to do my own research, I always love that when people say that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take a vaccine because I've done my own research. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. People only dedicate so much time to research and then they're done with it. They don't take the full time.
But they don't know what research really means. You don't just go Wikipedia. Oh, that's fact, right? That's what people do.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway,
and not too many people.
Because I'm going to be on a rant now.
And I doubt too many people have cracked a medical journal. I know that much. That's for sure.
Well, that would be a good idea to crack a medical journal, because that's actually real research.
It's pretty hard.
Even when I do fiction, I still do research.
It's pretty hard.
I'm going through copy edit review right now, and the copy editor did some research and made some changes, and I'm going, well, wait a second. These are the names of things as of today. This book takes place 10 years ago. Did you make the changes based on things that the way it's listed today on a government website, when we know it's all just been completely deleted and erased and updated to say something completely different? And you're making changes in my book based on that? Anyway, so you have to be careful.
True. Very true. I was just going to say, it's pretty hard to read a medical journal. I've done it. I've had to do it with my own stuff going on, but but I know when someone's read a medical journal and when they haven't, because they'll tell you it's pretty hard to read it and understand it unless you're a doctor.
Well, that's why you just read the little summary part at the top.
That's right. See, you've read one.
I read a lot of them. See? I write a lot of medical stuff, and I watch a ton of medical shows. I love. I've got some health stuff too that's have gone on in my life, and so I write about this stuff too. So
there you go. Let me ask you this, Caitlin, before we go to break. Now, this case, and I could have sworn. Now, you tell me if I'm wrong or not. This case that's in Body Parts, has it been co-opted by Law and Order and used before?
I have been watching a marathon bunch of Law and Order shows over the past couple months because my PlayStation stopped giving me the ability to watch Netflix in my living room. So I've been watching pretty much only Law and Order.
Okay.
No, I haven't seen it. I have not seen it co-opted. Okay. This was not a famous case. I mean, it made national news because he walked into the sheriff's office with a woman's breast in his pocket, and that did make national news.
Right.
But he is not a well-known serial killer, and there have not been very many TV shows made about this case, and I'll tell you why. Because it's too much work for the TV crews to go to 4 different counties where all the sheriff's detectives were investigating these independent, cases of their finding these dead women in waterways. They only got all pulled together once he was arrested because he turned himself in. He would not have been arrested if he had not turned himself in because he was not on anybody's radar. That's the reason I wrote this book. This is unheard of. What serial killer have you ever heard of who's turned himself in? Yeah. And it's more difficult because he's a trucker. And as the FBI has said, it seems like there are probably quite a few serial killers who are truckers. They cross state lines and nobody can track them because they pick up these women and kill them and drop them off in different places. It's hard to create a pattern when they're all over the place and there's a bunch of them, right? And so they can't tell which one's which unless they get a confession. And this guy turned himself in. I mean, usually they're caught.
Yeah. The reason I say that is there's 1 or 2 elements in here I could have swore they just cherry picked and took.
Well, it's possible, but I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't mean it hasn't happened. I tend to watch the SVU show more than the regular one, but I can tell. I can always tell, oh, this is that case or this is that case,
Yeah. Exactly. I tell you what, we'll take our break here. When we come back, I want to get into Wayne Adam Ford and his family dynamic. I want to talk a little bit about that because it's very interesting. Again, it's the how do you make a serial killer? You take one part this, one part that, you shake it, put it together, and then you get this. Let's talk a little bit about his family dynamic and see if that truly applies here with Wayne Adam Ford. I want to talk about the beginning of the book, which is very interesting. To me, the way you started this book was interesting. And the question, if I tell you this, will you still love me? I think is a very interesting question. It was the question that Wayne Adam Ford told to his brother Rodney. I can't tell you this because if I do, I don't think you'll love me. And
we'll come back to that because there's some context which I just recently learned.
Okay, great. So when we come back, we'll talk with our guest Caitlin Rother about this because it's the relationship between 2 brothers, and I want to talk about trust and I want to talk about love and how that's important in a familial relationship. So we'll talk with Caitlin when we come back. Again, folks, this book is phenomenal, and you may say, well, a reissue, Tim, a reissue? Yes, a reissue. And you have to get it because there's new information here. Body Parts, a serial killer's deadly compulsions. Caitlin Rother is our guest. We have a link in the description of this program. Go get it right now during the break. When we come back, more with Caitlin Rother next on True Crime Tuesday. Welcome back to the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. My guest is Caitlin Rother. The name of the book, Body Parts, A Serial Killer's Deadly Compulsions. We're talking, there it is right there. If you're watching the video, there's the book right there. We have a link in the description of this podcast. So we definitely want you to go get that book right now. Okay, so we're talking about Wayne Adam Ford. The way you open this book, Caitlin, is very intriguing. It's to me, it pulls you right in. So immediately, Ford gets on the phone, calls his brother Rodney, and wants him to come to him. I have something I need to tell you, but if I tell you, you're not going to love me anymore. And you're like, okay, it's got to be huge, right? It's not like he's going to tell him, oh, I think I ran over a bunny rabbit in traffic. It's not anything like that, right? It's got to be something huge. And he starts dropping these little hints. And it's something big. It's got to be something big. Of course, the book is called Body Parts. It's got to be huge, right? But the brother's like, well, of course I'm going to love you. Well, of course, because if you're in that position, if you're in that familial position, well, I'm not going to stop loving you because you're my brother. Of course, we've grown up together. Of course. But you put yourself right in Roger's shoes, right? You put yourself right there and you go, but I think I might have second thoughts, right? Tell me from your perspective, writing this book, you said you had a little more information. Tell me.
Yeah. Okay. So when I was writing this book, I tried to speak directly with Wayne Adam Ford, but he did not want to cooperate. Mm-hmm. So I was lucky enough to get the defense attorney's investigator to trust me. I met him. I went to the sentencing hearing and I met him in person. I said, look, I'm writing this book. I'd like to talk to you. And he didn't want to talk to me. He didn't trust anybody. He's one of those guys, former homicide detective, just gruff guy. So anyway, apparently he went home and made some calls and checked me out. And he came back the next day and he says, okay, I'll talk to you. You're the real deal. I'm like, okay, cool. And which was nice because this was only I hadn't written it yet. It was only my third book. So I'd only had a couple books by that point. So I was a reporter, an investigative reporter. And I was at the time still working for the San Diego Union Tribune, which was the last newspaper that I worked for before I quit to write books full time. So anyway, because he trusted me, he called up the family and he got Wayne's father and brother to agree to meet with me. Now, they had not spoken to anyone else, no media, no other author. And there was another book before mine. They didn't talk to that author. They talked to me. And so I made arrangements to meet them up in Northern California. I live in Southern California. And I met them at a hotel room. And my friends were very worried about me. They're like, you're going to go meet these people, family of a serial killer. You're going to go meet with them alone in a hotel. I'm like, they're not the ones in prison. They're not the ones who killed somebody. So I think I'm going to be okay. But right. I'll let you know before I go. And, if you're really worried about anyway. So I spent a couple days talking with Rodney. I spent the first day mostly focusing on the father, who, interestingly enough, had incredibly different versions of pretty much everything that happened when Wayne was a child than the mother had. So the same investigator, had interviewed Wayne's mother for 8 hours. And as part of the exhibits that were entered, but some of them were not actually entered for trial purposes, but they were entered for his appeal so that I had access to them, but they didn't really present them to the jury. I don't even know if the jury looked at them. So my book has a ton of stuff like that because the court clerk and exhibit people were super nice to me and generous. And these in the old days, they're not going to be like this today, unfortunately, which makes researching books much more difficult. Mm-hmm. But I had like a treasure trove of information, including excerpts of this 8-hour interview with his mother, where I learned a lot of really seminal things, what you were talking about, family dynamics. So basically, for example, the mom was bipolar and tried to kill herself, several times, which she still denied, even though, Rodney was there for one of them when he's 9 years old. She's in the kitchen. She has the top of a tuna fish can. She's slicing her, wrists up in front of her 9-year-old boy, and she's bleeding on the floor, stuff like that in front of her children. Oh. She was extremely promiscuous. Her husband was away. He was in U.S. Army intelligence. And she actually told Wayne that he was the product of rape by his father. So imagine being told these things, being brought up in a house like that. The father was apparently very aggressive and very much of a disciplinarian. And so Wayne was scared of him and had this thing like he thought he should be punished for things. So I think all that kind of went into his decision all these years later. I've killed these people, these women. I know it's wrong. I can't stop. I know I'll do it again. I need to turn myself in. So I think that was his mindset when he called his brother. And so he wouldn't tell his brother what he did over the phone. But once he got to the motel, Rodney told me that he didn't know what Wayne had done and that he wouldn't tell him any specifics. Well, he just told me recently, so this is all these years later, that was not in fact true, that he did tell him some details about what he had done. So in the book, it says he didn't know, but it turns out that Rodney did not tell me the complete truth at the time that we did those interviews. So basically, I don't know what details he told him, but he did know that he needed to take his brother to turn himself in, which is basically because he thought he's just going to try to get out of it. And he did. And I think Wayne knew that about himself as well, which is why he asked for Rodney's help, because he knew he needed to be punished, but he also knew he was probably going to try to get out of it. So the next day they're like, oh, let's go to breakfast. Let's go look around these parts where we grew up and let's reminisce. And then, he didn't want to go to prison anymore. He didn't want to turn himself in. And Rodney's like, no, we're going. going. And now I know that he knew exactly why they needed to go. But he also did not want to be accused of being complicit or being an accomplice after the fact. So once he had some details, he knew he had to make sure that he turned himself in. So that's basically what happened.
Now, in the short time that you got to talk to Rodney, I get the feeling.
It was hours, actually. It was, I recorded hours and hours and hours of tape. So, and it was over the course of 2 days. So okay. I did actually talk to him a lot. And okay. I talked to him on the phone too.
Okay. Well, okay, I'll amend that to in the time that you got to talk to Rodney. Did you get the feeling that he lost a little bit of love for his brother in this process?
Oh, a lot of love. Yeah. Well, I don't know about love. That's a tricky thing. I know that he was angry at how this case had completely disrupted his life because, like I said, it wasn't a well-known case, maybe nationally. I didn't hear about it, but apparently there were a lot of media hounding Rodney and his family. And same thing happened with John Gardner, the Chelsea King case. I don't know if you're aware of that one, Amber Dubois, Chelsea King. John Gardner's mother read this book, Body Parts, and said, you know what, these two, my son and this guy are actually, I see a lot of parallels, which I thought was pretty interesting because they were both men who raped and killed women. Yeah. So she lost her job. She was harassed. She was threatened. They, vandalized and defaced her house. She, people are not nice to families of serial killers, and they blame the families when in fact the family, generally speaking, doesn't know what the serial killer is doing. And for example, Ford, his family had no idea. Part of his family thought he was just this polite, handsome, former Marine, seemed like a nice guy. He sung karaoke, and had a good voice. And he, was with a number of women, but nobody knew what he was really like. So it wasn't like they were protecting him. They didn't know. And so when Rodney heard this stuff, he clearly did not know, but it was so, it overturned his whole life. And to this day, he's still angry about it. He doesn't even want to talk to him on the phone because every time he sees somebody, he says at a family meeting or something, somebody brings it up and it's just like, it exasperates him. So I guess you could say that he's lost love. I can't speak for him, but that's how it seems, so. But Ford is, stuck in prison. He still talks to his dad on the phone. But as far as I know, neither the brother or the father ever went to go visit him in prison like they said they were going to. Because I think it's difficult to, I saw a documentary with Dahmer's parents, and they both were just like, finger pointing at each other and blaming each other for everything. This is your fault. He turned out like this because you did this. And, that's kind of how it ends up being, because they're hated by everybody and blamed. Well, and they want to hate someone else.
I watched a show from a few years back with Dahmer's parents where Dr. Phil was pointing the finger at the parents and saying, you're directly responsible.
Well, what I do find, a lot of these cases I write books about, parenting is definitely a contributing factor.
Yeah.
The bad parenting or the lack thereof, lack of nurturing, or, just no good role models, or maybe the parents are thieves and criminals as well, Yeah. But in this case, I got to say, definitely genetic factors because of the mom. Definitely environmental factors because of the mom and the dad.
Right.
And then when he was 19 years old, he was in the military. He was in the Marines, and he was learning, about first aid, and he was learning about how the carotid artery in the neck works. And he was out on a date with a woman who later became his wife. And he said, "Hey, there's a car crash over there. I want to go see if I can help." So he's a good guy, right? He's 19 years old. He's kind of a good Samaritan. Goes over there, tries to help the crash victim who's bleeding from the neck. So he puts his hand over the wound on the neck and the carotid artery, which is what he learned. And coincidentally, ironically, years later, this is how he raped and tortured those women. He cut off their oxygen supply. That's how he'd get them to pass out. But in this case, he was trying to save this guy's life. While he was holding his neck, a drunk driver crashed into him, knocked him 40 feet down an embankment, and knocked his jaw off, and had a very severe head injury. Oh. So many people may not know this, but a lot of people who are on death row have had severe brain injuries. So his personality, he was a kinky, had some issues before this, but after that, Rodney said that his personality definitely changed. So there's that, and that was not his fault.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
like you said,
I'm not trying to take blame away from him. I'm just trying to explain the things that happened to him. And then, he developed these paraphilias, which are like fetishes times 100. He was super obsessed with women's breasts. Mm-hmm. And so when he turned himself in, he had a woman's breast in his pocket. When he was with his girlfriend, who later became his wife, he used to, get her to do things that she wasn't comfortable with, but she went along, and he would poke her with needles in the breast. He would cut holes in sheets so her breasts were poking out while they were having sex. I mean, just some pretty weird stuff, that just got worse as he got older. He was an alcoholic. He drank, self-medicating, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. And he was chronically depressed. And he was diagnosed with also borderline personality disorder, among a number of other things, and he decompensated. He ended up having to leave the Marines because he had mental breakdowns. And so he clearly was not in good mental shape. And I would say he was mentally ill. So when I write a book like this, I don't judge people if they're mentally ill. They're sick. So I don't say, oh, this man's evil. Mm-hmm. I say he did really bad things, horrible things, but I don't think he's evil. I think some of this stuff is just, some of it's not his fault. Some of it is just what happened. And some of it's pretty bad. I can't excuse it, but I'm explaining it.
Was there a time in jail where, they had him on some psychotropic drugs that you felt that maybe they were working for him and he took himself off of them? Or were they not necessarily working well?
No, he was not on drugs before he was arrested. He supposedly he was treated while he was in the Marines with Haldol because he was like violent and acting crazy. And so they they shot him up and they restrained him, and he calmed down. But Haldol is something that you stay on.
Didn't he state to his brother that while he was on death row that he had thrown away?
Hold on, you're jumping way ahead. I'm still behind. Before he was arrested, I'm talking about. Okay. So he supposedly sought mental health treatment, but it didn't seem like he really tried that hard, and he didn't like the way they were treating him, and so he didn't go back. So he was never taking medication that I can tell in any lasting way before he was arrested, before he turned himself in. And then once he was in prison, yes, I think he began to be treated, and I think his mental state improved. But you can see on the booking video, he's crying. He doesn't make any sense. I mean, I listened to the audio as well as read the transcripts of all these interviews he did with all these different detectives. He's rambling. He's just crying and rambling, and and he's getting details mixed up with the different victims. And he admits that he did this to 50 different women. It's just these 4 didn't make it back when he gave them CPR. So he claimed it was an accident. Well, okay, maybe one time it's an accident. Second time, third time, fourth time. If you keep doing this and you realize they're dying, that's not an accident.
Right.
So, but in his mind, he says he didn't go in to having sex with these women in order to kill them.
So with that being said, with all the mental difficulty that he seems to be having, how is it that they're not able to put it together from start to finish that he's having all this mental difficulty? It seems like he had started out with the interrogations, right, in the very beginning, and they seem to have all this material on him that he's out of control. He's out of control in these interrogations. And we get to the point where, through the trials and whatnot, you would think they would have had some sort of insanity plea, but they didn't. And then he's in jail. And all of a sudden, he's got the death penalty facing him. What was it about those interrogations that they weren't able to form any type of defense for him?
Okay, so this is all detailed in the book, and I'm not really in a position to go into all these specifics, but it is in the book and it is discussed. Mm-hmm. But what I can tell you in a general sense to kind of give you an overview is that when he came into the station, he asked for an attorney. So they started interviewing him and he said he wanted an attorney. But then they said, well, if you ask for an attorney, then we won't be able to talk to you because the attorney will tell you not to talk to us. So they got the brother to come in and, well, do you want to do the right thing? Don't you want these families to have closure? Don't you want to tell them what you know? Don't you want to help them find, the families and give them what you did and tell them everything? And so he said, yes. So they didn't let the attorney, when there was an attorney who finally found out about this and tried to get in, they wouldn't even let him in. So, I mean, there was a whole lot of controversy. This took a long time to get to trial because of these legal issues. Because eventually they did let an attorney into the interrogations. And they said, well, he kept talking. And so therefore he kind of waived his, request for an attorney, and we just let him keep talking. And so we had all these detectives coming in and he just kept talking. So it seemed to me like he was confessing to all this stuff. But as the defense attorneys finally, were successful, and they were managed to throw some of these initial interviews out because he had asked for an attorney and they kept talking to him. So it was one of these tricky things. What I can tell you is from my own observations, it was clear that he was not in a proper mental state to not have an attorney there, to not have somebody helping him, because he clearly was not in the capacity to make his own decisions to protect himself.
So he's vulnerable.
So it took a long time to get to trial. And the other thing is, he turned himself in Humboldt County, which has an incredibly low rate of sending people to death row. And there was a law that was passed in the meantime where they were able to consolidate cases like this that occurred in different counties and consolidate them into one county for trial. And they put it in San Bernardino County, which has a very high propensity for juries to send these defendants to death row.
Ah, okay.
So I'm not sure he was thinking about that at the time because he lived up there, but that ended up hurting him as well. And so, there's a two-part trial. There's the guilt part, the guilt phase, where they find him guilty. Then they proceed to the death penalty trial. And then they offer all these mitigating circumstances. And so that's when the defense attorney brings in all of this mental health stuff again to try to maybe get death penalty off the table. But the jury still sent him to death row.
Yeah.
As it turns out, in California, Governor Gavin Newsom put a moratorium on the death penalty for as long as he's governor. He has, in fact, completely eliminated death row as a physical place. So all of these people, including Ford, are now in other prisons. So he is now in San Luis Obispo in a prison that has maximum security level inmates, but he has a lot more freedom, apparently, and he's not stuck in one little cell all the time. So he is happier. Mm-hmm. And some people may not be happy about that, but that's how California works. And so, his brother doesn't talk to him. He only talks to his dad. I guess he talks to occasionally, podcasters who, write him or whatever. He did not want to talk to me for this reissued edition. Okay. Said they didn't see any point to it. I don't really know how he's doing, but
does this change now? But the thing I was curious about when I read this book was, you talk about Gavin Newsom, Governor Newsom, putting a stay on all executions. Now, as we know, when President Trump came in, he said when it came to the federal level, that's changed. That's off the table.
Right.
We're going full bore and we're taking out.
But he doesn't have control over the state systems.
Okay, so that has nothing.
That doesn't mean he's not going to try.
Right. That's what I was going to bring up. That doesn't mean that he's not going to try and infringe on the states, because he has tried to infringe on the states.
His big thing supposedly is that we're going to let the states govern themselves, but we'll see. We'll see.
Right.
Who knows what'll happen? And every day it's a new surprise.
And again, we're not a political talk show, but I'll bring up the one thing I can bring up, and that happens to be him flexing on the governor of Idaho and saying, well, if you don't do that, you're not going to get state funding. And I won't name the issue, but
in Maine and California and whoever else, says something he doesn't like. So
where I could see if I'll put it this way, in the world of crime, I could see him saying, if you don't start executing prisoners and getting on the federal level of death row inmates and start getting rid of your death row prisoners, then I could see where.
I think that's a stretch. I think that's a stretch even for where we are today. So we'll see, but I would be surprised. Although, like I said, every day is a new surprise. So.
Well, and let's talk briefly, because we've talked about this before on this show, having to do with the method of execution. I know it's lethal injection in California.
There isn't a method of execution because there was a 3 injection procedure, mm-hmm. and they basically got rid of that because they decided that one of those was inhumane. It caused pain, was not supposed to. So they were just finishing the public review period of a new 1 injection protocol, mm-hmm. and that's when he instated the moratorium. Okay. So we actually don't have any protocol right now. I don't know that they can go back to the 1 injection protocol, because I don't think they really finished that review period. And maybe they did and just shelved it. I don't know, to be honest, but I'd have to call up and ask. And you know what? Trying to call up the government and get any information these days is pretty much like yelling into the void.
Right. There was it Idaho recently that did a firing squad execution? I'm trying to remember if it was Idaho or if it was.
I saw that somewhere. South Carolina, maybe?
I know it was, yeah.
I can't remember.
you almost hate to bring up the subject, but is that, I know that's probably not an option for California. That's probably not somewhere they want to go or want to think about, but is that something that
I couldn't answer that.
Yeah, I don't see California doing any alternative to that or even putting it back on the table.
Well, when they did public votes on the question of the death penalty, there was a majority of people who were in favor of it. So even though Gavin decided to put a moratorium there, that was not the will of the voters. That was his will.
Okay. So
because he says, that it is not socioeconomically or ethnically, racially, it's biased against people of color and low income people who, can't afford their own attorneys. And there have been mistakes and errors that have been found after the fact. And he just doesn't think it's a good system to do that. And so he said, I just can't in good conscience continue with those. So,
right.
But he's not going to be governor for that much longer. So we'll see what happens.
True. Very true. Very true. And again, the reason I ask is you do bring up the other fact in the book that it costs more to house a death row inmate than it does someone in general population or someone under murder charges.
I'm not sure if that's still true though, because they've gotten rid of death row and they've put these people in more of the general population prisons. So I'm not sure that that's still the case. Although it is to take them to trial, they have to do a lot more things more carefully. And there's other, it's more time consuming and they have to be really super careful. So I think it probably still costs more to try them. I don't know about the housing.
Yeah. Just a couple of interesting facts there. So I don't know. Like I said, you have a lot of interesting tidbits in this book that again just kind of pull you in as someone who's interested in the overall, not only the overall story but the overall process of law, right? So,
well, thank you. Appreciate that.
So it's again fascinating stuff. I do have one more small thing to ask you about, and we were talking about family here, and that was you said you had you tried to reach out to the mother was not all that receptive. I do want to get your general impressions other than what you've given us so far on the mother as far as this goes. I had an impression of my own that I got from just reading this book and getting, because there's a part of Ford's background we haven't talked about yet, and we don't necessarily have to get into it too much. He has a media liaison that is by his side. I think, for lack of a better term, we can call her his new girlfriend. I think that's pretty safe to say.
No, I wouldn't say that.
No?
I don't think she was his girlfriend. She just wanted to use him.
But here was my observation when it comes to Ford. Is this. It seems to me as he's killing these innocent girls or women, to me, I'm thinking he's seeing the face of his mother every time he's doing it.
I don't think he has a very high opinion of women. Let's put it that way. I don't think his mother did him any favors in the way that she raised him. I mean, according to her, she didn't do anything wrong. And she's very defensive, and she didn't want to participate. As soon as she found out that her ex-husband and her son, Rodney, were going to be interviewed, and I was going to use what they had to say in the book, she didn't want to have anything to do with it.
Okay.
Because clearly they have very different versions of what happened. And so for her own self-protection, because of her perspective on the world, she got sick during COVID, and I got some email from somebody who was helping her, taking care of her. And I can't remember where she was. Maybe it might have been India or something, and tried and said, could you please get in touch with Rodney, because he's not answering her and she's trying to get in touch with him, and she wants him to know that she's really sick and she needs his help. And so there's some pretty serious estrangement going on. And I passed the message on to him, and he really did not want to have anything to do with her. And I just says, well, I'm just passing this message on. You do what you want to do. But they contacted me, and I'm just letting you know. So, I don't know. There's two sides to every story, but I think that, like from what I said already, I'll just leave it at that. Okay. I don't really know more than that. And it would be conjecture and speculation on my part, and I try not to do that. So,
okay.
But yeah, I think I think it's fair to say that he did not have a high opinion of women.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
I think he objectified them pretty much, which is common.
Very much. Well,
kind of
the fact
serial killer.
that literally he treated them like a piece of meat at the end. It pretty much, I think you're right on spot on right there. So, the book is Body Parts: A Serial Killer's Deadly Compulsions. Caitlin Rother is the author, and it's a classic, that's for sure. And again, we encourage you to go get the book. It is in the description of this program. We have a link for it. Caitlin, you're going to join us again beginning of June. We'll be talking about the brand new book, which is
yes, I'm excited about that.
Down to the Bone. Is that the name of the book, right?
Down to the Bone, about the McStay family murder case.
That's right. So you'll be joining us,
and that's new. This one is not a reissue. It's brand new.
That's right. That's brand new. So we look forward to you joining us again in June.
Great. Looking forward to it.
All right. So, again, folks, go get Body Parts: A Serial Killer's Deadly Compulsions. We're going to lighten things up right now. It's time for us to join Dumb Crimes, Stupid Criminals.
It's Crayon News story time.
What happened with this dude, Christ Bearer? I heard he cut his penis off and then jumped off a balcony.
Suspect pulls gun from butt, shoots twice at Denver police.
What is your emergency?
I need help.
And what's the problem?
I'm too high.
You're too high?
Yeah.
It's that time again. The time you've all been looking forward to. It's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals. And here's the deal. We gave the ladies the week off because it's Mother's Day, right? Mother's Day.
As we should.
As we should. So, as you hear the voice in the background, that means only one thing. That means we have a new co-host this week. And in order to do that, I had to reach way, way out to the town of Nashville, Tennessee. I reached out and I grabbed a good friend and brother, and he's that way because my mom pays him to call himself that. And pays good money, as a matter of fact, on a weekly basis.
She pays me for a lot. Some not safe for the program, but I feel you.
Well, until later in the program, when we get to the not safe for work portion of the program. He is on the Big 98. He's not just on the Big 98. He is the Big 98, as a matter of fact. We used to call him Big D back here in the Twin Cities, but he's got a new name now, ladies and gentlemen. Not only is he the two-time nominee for the National Weekly On-Air Personality of the Year and On-Air Personality of the Year in a large market, I got to throw out the CMA nominations here, Mr. Wayne D. Also, he is the morning show host of the Big 98. And you can hear him nationally on the iHeart Country House Party on Saturday nights at 7 p.m., syndicated everywhere on your iHeart Radio app. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Wayne D. How you doing, Wayne? There you go.
Sorry, I had to wave to the millions.
And millions.
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you. You know, this is the first time outside a wrestling program, I think, that we've actually said.
For real.
Yeah.
For real. Yeah. What are we supposed to talk about?
Well, we're going to talk dumb crimes, stupid criminals.
Can we still talk half naked men? Otherwise, I'm out on this.
You know, we can, because you know what? We have to talk about one who's half naked and wears a headdress, Sabu. Sabu passed.
Oh, that's your guy. You're a big ECW guy, yeah. So that was a tough day for Tim.
As you can tell by the belt right back here. Yeah. Yeah, it was a tough day. Sabu passed away this past weekend. So
when's the last time you defended that thing back there?
Anybody who wants to roll up in the studio and try and take me for it, they can. Yeah.
You want some?
Come get some. Yeah. But yeah, it was a sad day. I'm not joking about Sabu passing away, but 60 years old, man.
I'm telling you, these guys, he was a part of that era of pro wrestlers though, that lived real hard lives. You know what I mean? Like they lived like, like 40 was the end goal. I'm sure he thought the last 20 years were bonus for the way he lived.
Yeah. Well, if I remember right, now you remember the Rob Van Dam Rob Van Dam WWE Championship era, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wasn't Sabu the one that was in the car with him when he got popped for weed and he had to, right? And he had to give up the WWE Championship?
Dang. Taking him down from the inside.
That's right. That's right. But that's not the only Sabu highlight. I do have to say, okay, kids, plug your ears, earmuffs, because we're not safe for work territory yet. Anytime the crowd chants, and this is what really ticks me off about when the crowd chants "Holy shit." This is what gets me mad because they chant it at the worst times. The crowd does not know what a holy shit moment is.
Nope.
Sabu and Terry Funk came up with the first real holy shit moment.
Yeah.
And that was in their hardcore match in ECW in a barbed wire match when they're both rolled up in barbed wire. And I'm talking both rolled up in barbed wire and can't go anywhere. And it's biting into their skin and it's real barbed wire. And at one point, Sabu is split all the way down his bicep. And he takes a roll of duct tape and just tapes up his arm.
Really? I don't know if I've seen that ever.
Tapes it up. I'll have to find the video clip and send it to you. That's tough. And continues with the match. And
That's wild, man.
He should have gone to the hospital at that point.
I feel like I'm about 80 years old when I say this, but they don't make them like they used to.
That's right. Well, now you know why he only lived to be 60.
Valid.
Yeah.
That's a good run to most people, but valid.
Yeah. But he, boy, was he tough. I mean, he was just a tough guy. But Taz was online, and you could tell he was barely choking back emotion as he was paying tribute to Taz yesterday. We're recording this on Monday. He did this on Sunday. And it was heartfelt. You know, he said he was watching a clip of Taz and was kind of chuckling as he was watching Sabu and his dry sense of humor talk about a particular subject about the old days. And it was just, it's sad to see, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I saw that. It's tough.
Yeah. But rest in peace, Sabu. And man, I'm telling you, we're getting to that point now where you're going to start to see some of that hard living generation start to pass away. And it's
tough.
Yeah, it's tough to see. It's tough to see. All right. So now that we've gotten the tough part of the program out of the way, it's time to get into the funny part of the program. So Wayne, I know you're new to this gig. So here's how this gig goes. We basically read stories about dumb crimes committed by stupid criminals. It's not tough to figure out what this segment's about. We're going to start out today with a man who's learned that if you're going to go to a book burning, bring your own books. Don't check them out from the library.
Okay.
To
be fair, feels basic enough. I guess not for everybody.
No, it's a basic lesson, right? This story, let's see. You know, most of the times when you read a story like this, you go, "Oh, we're going to Florida," because it would seem like Florida would be the place where most of that would come from, right?
Retirees and idiot criminals, like the state is full.
Right? Yeah, should have room for no more, but you'd be surprised. Believe it or not, we're going to Cleveland for this story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right.
The booming metropolis that is.
Right, the home of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and much, much more. This man was accused of checking out books on Jews, blacks, LGBTQ history, and much, much more from the Cuyahoga County Public Library, and then burning them on an extremist website. I told you we were starting out fast.
The punchlines are endless.
They really are.
First of all, did you call Uncle Dave and tell him to not do that type of stuff?
No.
That dude, what? I don't even get it. First of all, a book burning in general, right? Like you would think it's a book that has something meaning of meaning to you. That's why you show up to it. This guy was just like, burning books? Sure, I'll pick some up on the way.
Sure. I probably should go purchase some of my own. And, it's like when you go to a picnic, you probably want to go buy the food, not rent it, right? I mean,
valid.
Yeah.
Valid.
Yeah. The Cuyahoga County Public Library officials said in a police report obtained by 3 News, accused a man of checking out 100 books on Jewish history, Black history, and LGBTQ education last month before filming a book burning and posting that video on social media. Was described by advocates as a hub for white supremacist, neo-Nazi, and extremist content. According to an investigative report filed last week by the Beechwood Police Department, the man went into the Beechwood Library branch on Shaker Boulevard and applied for a library card on April 2nd. So to make this clear, he didn't have the library card before he went in. He did this all in one fell swoop.
The best part is it's not premeditated, right? It's not like he got the card and came back later. I mean, he's kind of like, I believe this is the definition of a knee-jerk decision that he made here.
It could have been, or it could have been planned out all at one time. Who knows?
Valid. Yeah.
He was approved for the card and checked out 50 books by the library's proper procedure. So there's a 50-book limit, evidently, when you sign up for a card. Who knew?
Well, you might want to revisit the 50-book idea, right?
Yeah. Probably want to make that a limit of 10. The library official told police that the Princeton University Bridging Divides Initiative, a nonpartisan research effort that tracks political violence in the United States and monitors suspected hate crimes on social media, notified the library that the man had posted a photo to gab.com of a car trunk full of books. The post came with a caption that referenced cleansing the libraries, according to an official. The books in the photo appeared to match the topics of the books that the man had checked out, and also had Cuyahoga County Public Library stickers on them, according to the police report. Now, that's going to get you in trouble.
Whoa.
Right?
To be fair, listen, there's times that I've, been in a bad mood or maybe thought something not super nice. But to be like, I'm going to get a library card. I'm going to go to the library. I'm going to back my truck up to the loading dock. Like, come on, man. Come on.
Well,
I don't know.
You would think the library would be a little suspicious when you start, checking out books of, history, and then it's, you're getting multiple books of history, and you're like, are you really going to read all those in 2 weeks?
I'll say this. Maybe they were like, oh, this middle-aged, I'd imagine, white gentleman, because why else would anybody else check those books out? Maybe he's going to educate. He's going to culture himself a little bit. Not the case, it turns out, I guess.
No. Now, according to the Anti-Defamation League Center on Extremism, Gab is a platform known for lax content moderation policies that is widely used by conspiracy theorists, white nationalists, neo-Nazis, and members of militias and influential figures among the alt-right. On April 10th, the man returned to the Beechwood branch and borrowed another 50 books relating to similar topics. So he's building an arsenal of books, so to speak. The man told the librarian that his son was a member of the LGBTQ community, and he was trying to learn more about it. A little weak sauce, but okay. According to the police report, the librarian found the man's behavior to be very odd and concerning, but the red flag wasn't enough to stop him. But the man did not make any threats during the encounter. Okay, so we continue.
What threat would you make? What threat would you... You know what's going to happen? I'm going to take these books and I'm going to read them. I'm reading them, and you can't stop me, Donna.
That's right.
Get out of here.
The Princeton researchers later reached out to the library again, this time saying that the man posted a video they believe depicted him burning all 100 books. The police report again states that the books in the video, a copy of which was obtained by police, appeared to match the theme and titles of the books that were checked out from the library. One of the books shown in the video had a CCPL sticker and was an exact match to one of the books that the man withdrew. Now, here's the kicker, Wayne. You ready for this?
Yeah.
At the time the police report was filed on May 2nd, the man was not facing any charges in connection with the allegations. Police said the library staff were calling only to document the incident. This is a typical library move. And that the borrowed books were not yet overdue. Now, when they become overdue, now we got a problem. They're burnt! They're burnt!
And you see the pictures and you see the videos and you see proof and you...
Do you think they're going to come out of the fire and reassemble themselves and end up back on your shelf?
I mean, if anything's going to rise from the ashes, it should be a book.
It should be, really, right?
Let's be honest.
The library told the police that the man would be sent a bill. This is very nice and librarian-like. Once the books became overdue, and that the bill would be sent to collections if it was not paid. This is so nice.
Every now and again you see stupid criminal headlines. And with this, it's like, I just want one time a librarian to show up with an Uzi and be like, your book's late. This is the last opportunity you get to bring this back on time. They're like, oh, sorry, I was getting Wizard of Oz for my kids. Yeah, well, Carolyn, it was due at 3 p.m. today.
Carolyn.
I'm going to need you to bring it back.
We're going to need that back right now. The books had a combined total value of $1,700. Yeah.
That would be a felony, right? Over $600?
Yeah, should be.
Come on.
You would think they'd be a little upset.
I would be. And 50, how many damn books y'all got? 50?
Well, he had 100 because remember, he made,
had 100.
he made two runs, 50 books apiece.
How many? Listen, for those Minnesota listeners, the library I spent the most time at when I was a kid, the Crystal Library. Mm-hmm. I want to say that's off of Winnetka, maybe right there, but whatever it is. And that library was massive. I can't imagine in 2025 we got libraries that size anymore. And so 100 books out, and especially on those topics, how many books y'all got on LGBTQ and Black history? And come on,
evidently 101.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild. Well, I can't imagine there's many left at this point.
No. Police told the library staff that since a contract was entered and payment would eventually be billed, the incident was likely a civil matter. The investigative report states that the Beechwood City prosecutor would be consulted to determine whether criminal charges are warranted. I think at this point, probably, yeah. The library plans to ban the man from its property in the future. That's the least you can do, right?
Well, here's the other thing. Like, take the humor out of this. That's a hate crime. You're burning. Yeah. What's the difference between burning? It was about Jewish history, right? Jewish heritage,
Jewish, Black, and LGBTQ. Yep.
So any one of those, checking it out and throwing it in the trash, one thing. An act of setting it on fire. How is that any different than setting fire to a flag that represents one of those? Right? Like that would be considered a hate crime, wouldn't it?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It is. Police.
We'll send you a bill and we'll go from there.
We'll send you a bill. We'll go from there. And you better pay it promptly, on time. Police told the library staff to contact them for help, issuing a trespass warning if the man returned to the library. So that's how they're going to get him.
And let me tell you, any place that's going to be lax on that, because isn't the average person working in the library about 85?
Yeah.
Come back in 9 months. The front desk crew is going to be turned over by then.
85.
There's some beautiful 35-year-old woman right now that's like,
I am not.
I happen to enjoy working at the public library.
I like a nice, quiet library.
Listen, if you are.
And a good cup of tea.
Slide in the DMs if you are a 35-year-old librarian, because
there you go. Yeah.
We need to talk.
And a nice cup of tea, if you know what I mean. Too.
Yeah.
Well, we go from one extreme to another. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about a new trend here, Wayne. A new trend that I happen to enjoy, and that's a good cruise fight.
Oh, Oh, see, I thought you were talking about the nipple tassel thing, but what's this about?
Oh, no, we're talking cruise fights.
Tim wears nipple tassels. What were you saying?
No, there's no nipple. Well, there might be a nipple tassel involved in this deal. That's not safe for work. You got to wait until we get to the not safe for work part. Yeah.
What's not safe for work? They're covered with the tassels.
That's the thing that we don't talk about in front of the kids.
Got it.
But we can talk about your parents getting in a fight on a cruise ship.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about it?
Well, cruise fights are on the rise. I don't know if you knew this or not. See, I'm giving you material for mornings there on the Big 98.
But here's the deal. A cruise fight. Mm-hmm. So if you're on a 7-day cruise, that's like a 7-round fight. You're going to see that person again.
Well, a lot of times it's happening as you're debarking. Like people have had it with each other and they're like, and then, they're knocking the snot out of each other as they're getting their luggage.
I could see that, actually. I could really see that.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. Yeah. In this case, the last one we reported on was on a Carnival cruise, which it seems fitting. I don't know why.
Yeah, that does feel like the Kmart of cruises. Although if anyone from Carnival is listening, I will gladly take a comp trip.
Yes, because Wayne needs to figure out if you truly are the Kmart of cruises.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'll be the judge of that.
So if you could comp him a cruise, he'll find out for himself and then come and get back to you on that.
My positive reviews can be bought. I'm just going to say it now.
That's right. And I'll take one too. I mean,
amen.
Yeah. So we'd both like to come on board.
Yeah, listen, we will bring the whale watching right to the deck for you.
That's right.
Get the two of us without shirts on.
We'll even do tricks. It'll be fun. This next cruise ship fight led to a death, believe it or not. So it was a fight to the death on this cruise ship. And
over what? What would you... Listen, I understand looking over across some baggage at a guy and taking a swing, but like to beat him to death?
I'm guessing Shrimp Bar wasn't stocked.
Ooh. Or somebody had the upside pineapple on the door and his wife didn't realize it type of deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it was. Mm-hmm. Just saying.
And it says here that cruise crew members were deported. Wow. Let's get into this. A concerning trend of violent altercations among cruise passengers across multiple cruise lines escalated on May 3rd when a passenger died following an onboard fight. The incident comes just a week after Carnival Cruise Lines put 24 people on its do not sail list. By the way, that's a thing, a do not sail list, just so you know.
So essentially the C's version of do not fly, right?
Yeah. For engaging in a massive brawl in a Port of Galveston cruise terminal. Violent altercations involving passengers were also reported on Royal Caribbean and Virgin Voyages cruise ships in April. That's right. The violence is spreading.
Let's go.
Let's go.
The Royal Rumble of cruise ships.
That's right. It's like UFC is sponsored all these cruise lines. Hey, wouldn't that be cool if they had like a WWE UFC cruise?
You just gave the TKO group a great idea.
I did, didn't I?
I would trademark the hell out of that right now.
Let's trademark it, and if they want it, they have to get us to host it.
Done. Easy.
All right.
And I want a picture with Triple H where he's pointing at me like this.
Yeah, like the right. The latest incident occurred aboard an MSC cruise ship. I've never heard of MSC cruises, but if they, again, want to have us on board for free, we'd love to take one just to see what it looks like. The latest incident occurred aboard an MSC cruise ship sailing a weekend cruise from Southampton, England to Belgium and led to a murder investigation. Doug Parker shared more details on the cruise ship murder investigation and other cruise news, including a cruise ship smackdown on child exploitation on the May 6th edition of Cruise News Today.
Wow.
Yeah, he said British police have launched an investigation after a 60-year-old man passed away following an altercation aboard the MSC Virtuosa over the weekend. The incident reportedly happened shortly after departure from Southampton, where the ship had to return to dock 3 hours later. A 57-year-old man from southern England was arrested on suspicion of murder. In a statement, MSC said, we're providing full support to those impacted, and thoughts are with the family and friends at this difficult time. The investigation is ongoing, and local authorities thanked MSC and its crew for their cooperation. And federal agents have arrested and deported 11 cruise ship crew members, this is, in a nationwide child exploitation crackdown at U.S. ports.
What? Oh, my Lord. So, all right. There's levels to the madness now.
There is levels to the madness.
Oh, my gosh.
The joint operation led by Customs and Border Protection in Fort Lauderdale targeted workers on cruise ships at ports including Galveston and Port Canaveral. One arrest was made after agents found illicit content on a device. 10 others were deported following investigations of intent to purchase. Purchase children?
Wow.
Whoa. Officials say the sweep was geared toward protecting passengers, especially those with children, and it is not a reflection on the cruise industry as a whole. A Norwegian cruise line is honoring Teacher Appreciation Week with its annual Giving Joy campaign. I have no idea what it has to do with children. That was literally...
They had to throw in a plug there.
I was going to say that's literally the next line in the story. I don't know what that has to do with children.
Unreal.
That is
unreal.
That is the worst written story in the history of the world. Let's skip the teacher thing because, that is weird. Okay, so it said cruise stocks, by the way, were mainly flat on Monday, as they should be with all the fights going on. So there you go. By the way, Doug, you write a horrible story. If you lead with child exploitation on cruises, and by the way, Teacher Week is coming up.
Yeah,
it's a horrible story.
I mean, maybe it's like get the kids out of the way because the teachers are trying to enjoy summer off or something. I guess I don't know what the point of that
right. I don't know what that is, but
what a way to bust that's a hell of a sting operation there.
Right. Yeah.
Listen, I've never been on a cruise. You did cruises before.
Jericho cruises. Yeah.
I don't know if I do get on a cruise ship anytime soon, though, I'm going to be like, make sure the kids aren't walking around with price tags on them.
Right. Yeah.
Alert authorities immediately.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know that I'd take a kid on a cruise, to be honest with you. Maybe Disney cruises.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, number one, it's like, what if they don't deal well with the seasick? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That and love my children.
Yeah.
Love my children. I want to hit the water and have some beverages. And be an adult child.
Right. And you are trapped on a cruise ship. You aren't going anywhere. And if you love your kids and they're high energy, you don't want to be on a ship that's like, and if you're claustrophobic, a ship is not the place to be. A cruise ship is not the place to be. But if you can imagine being in a small room that's even smaller, again, I'm getting claustrophobic. I'm squeezing you into this small little room, and then you put your kids on top of you, and they're high energy. Boy, you're going to want to throw them overboard by the time you're done with 5 or 7 days.
Which would get you on next week's edition of True Crime Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it would. Yeah, you'd be featured in the front part of the program. That's for sure.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Our next story has to do with a bus driver who's accused of having a blood alcohol level of 0.221 while taking children on a school field trip.
Okay, if you're watching this portion of the podcast, Tim made a judgmental face. Sometimes I drink to deal with my children, so let's not judge his coping mechanism, but let's judge the fact that he decided to drive as well. You can't judge the fact that everybody copes in their own way. He wasn't trying to hurt anybody, and maybe here's the deal: maybe he was having some beverages because he's trying to forget the kids he had to deal with on the morning route.
Okay,
right?
Sure.
And then the main bus driver, who was supposed to do the field trip, called in sick. He's only backup.
Okay. But
I'm really pacifying this guy's mistake here. I don't know.
I think you are, because 0.221 is more than a few, my friend. That's, yeah.
Well, maybe he's had a rough day. Maybe he was dating somebody and she left out of the blue, got back with her ex. No explanation.
No explanation.
And now he just, you know what I mean?
So he spent
he's going through some things right now.
So he spent the entire morning drinking while he was driving and then decided to do the field trip.
I've done my best, Tim. I've done my best.
Okay. Just checking. checking to see.
I'm trying to say proven till, what is it? Proven till
innocent until proven guilty.
Innocent until proven guilty. Yep.
Okay. All right. We go to Davies County, Indiana, where a bus driver is accused of having a blood alcohol level of 0.221. That's almost 3 times the legal limit. While driving children on a school field trip. According to the Davies County Sheriff's Office, dispatch received a call that a school bus was stuck in the mud in the median. So he's in the median in the mud at US 50 and County Road 300 West in Washington, Indiana. The bus driver is 55-year-old Stephen Truelove. Boy, that's a name, isn't it?
That sounds like a stage name, if you will.
It does, yeah. He was taken to Davies Community Hospital for a drug and alcohol screen, where it was determined that his blood alcohol level was 0.221, which tells you if they took him to the hospital to be screened, he wasn't going to blow in anything on the side of the road because he knew he was knockered.
Not to get us off track here. Truelove is his last name?
Yes, Truelove. Yeah.
I believe Candy Truelove took quite a few of my singles at Deja Vu in downtown Minneapolis at one point. I wonder if they're related.
I bet you that's her brother. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I believe
well, if he could reconnect us, I need a receipt.
You need something for tax purposes? Yeah. You need to write that off?
I need to write it off. It was a mental health trip is what it was.
That's what it was. Okay. Oh, sure. 4 adults and 38 children were removed from the bus. Why couldn't one of the adults have taken over for Stephen Truelove?
It's just as much their fault as it is his at this point.
Right? Yeah. 4 adults and 38 children were removed from the bus, and thankfully no one was injured. Truelove was charged with operating a vehicle, of course, while intoxicated.
Oh, Lord.
We go from a bus driver, Wayne, who was slightly intoxicated, to someone else who was slightly intoxicated. I'm going to show you a little picture here. I don't have anything fancy to bring this up other than my iPad to show you this picture of our little buddy who is intoxicated.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
I did. This went crazy viral on either Instagram or TikTok.
Yeah.
This story. Because the cop is literally hilariously laughing in the background. I'm gonna put this story in the description of our program today so you can watch the video. We go to Springfield Township, Ohio, not too far away from Indiana, where, as Wayne put it, one cop went nuts when he found a raccoon in a car smoking on a meth pipe. Well, because I saw this, isn't the story like she got pulled over for suspicion of something, right? And she had maybe a suspended license or something. And as they removed her out of the car, he came back to the car to see her pet raccoon literally hanging on to her meth pipe, but properly.
She had 2 of them.
2 raccoons?
He took two meth pipes because he took one out of the vehicle and then he had another one. He knew how to do it.
Yeah. Well, good boy.
Yeah, good boy. Good boy. Police in Springfield Township had more than an interesting animal encounter this past week when they crossed paths with a raccoon holding a meth pipe to its mouth during an arrest. According to a Facebook post from the department on the evening of May 5th, officers pulled over a vehicle whose owner had an active warrant and a suspended driver's license, as Wayne said. The driver is 55-year-old Virginia Vidal Page of Akron and was detained by police. But when an officer walked back to Vidal's vehicle, a raccoon named Chewy was sitting in the driver's seat with a meth pipe in his mouth. Chewy had somehow gotten a hold of a glass methamphetamine pipe, leading officers to further inspect the vehicle. The post from the department said a search of the vehicle turned up crack cocaine, meth, and 3 used glass meth pipes. 3. In case one of them gets worn out, I guess.
The worst part is stories like this happen 100 times a day in cities across America. But because of Chewy, the meth mouth raccoon.
The meth mouth raccoon.
What if that raccoon is a juvenile? Does she get charged for endangerment?
I think so, yes, yeah. Well, animal endangerment, yeah.
And let me say this. If you're listening and have a pet raccoon, I bet you have meth in your house as well. Because those things feel like they just go hand in hand. Do you have ketchup on your hot dog? Yeah. You have raccoons and meth at the same time, too.
Boy, are you going to get it from people. You know how many...
Well...
okay, so, with the Pope being from Chicago now, there was there was that joke going around that now ketchup on hot dogs is considered a sin, and everybody went nuts when that joke started floating around last week.
What happened to Chicago because their sports teams are horrible is the Pope came from there.
Yeah. But the whole thing is people were like, no, I like ketchup on hot dogs. Well, you shouldn't admit that in public. You know?
I like ketchup on hot dogs. Is that bad?
It should be, unless you're, less than 13 years old. It's kind of a bad thing.
Listen, what were you told by authorities about saying 13-year-olds and hot dogs in the same sentence?
I should never mention that again. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm not going to tell. I like relish. Does that help?
Yeah, but see, it's a cardinal sin when you go to Chicago to put ketchup on a hot dog, especially if there's relish on it. See, it's mustard, relish, onion, tomato, pickle.
Oh, see, I can't do
onion.
all that.
You can't do a Chicago dog?
Nah, I can't. I can do some of that stuff, but like once they start adding the peppers and all that, I'm like,
no, I can't I can't do peppers.
Yeah,
I without the sport pepper. Can't do.
Next time I'm gonna have to look over my shoulder. Next time I'm at a Nashville Predators game at Bridgestone Arena, make sure nobody judge me for putting ketchup on my dog over here. Unreal.
Do they judge that stuff in Nashville?
Well, no, but in case somebody from Chicago's around, they'll be like, "Oh, look at this grown man has ketchup on his hot dog."
That's right. I don't think Chicago's the only place they do it, though. I've heard that too in New York. When I've been to New York, you don't put ketchup on a hot dog.
I'll only put ketchup on my hot dog when I eat them at home now.
Well, I don't want to get you weirded out about putting ketchup on your hot dog, but it's.
No, it's okay. I was a child. I guess I shouldn't cut it up and put it in mac and cheese either, is what you're going to tell me next.
No. I enjoy hot dogs and mac and cheese. You know what, though? There was a certain person who used to be on this program that put barbecue sauce in his hot dogs and mac and cheese. Anyways, so Chewy the raccoon, we get back to this. Thankfully, Chewy the raccoon was unharmed and notification was made to the proper authorities to determine that she has the proper paperwork and documentation to own the raccoon. So she might not even properly own Chewy.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Vidal is facing several drug charges and was cited for driving under suspension. While our officers are trained to expect the unexpected, finding a raccoon holding a meth pipe is a first. No raccoons were hurt or injured in this incident. As always, we remain committed to keeping our community safe, no matter what surprises may come our way. It is legal to own a raccoon in the state of Ohio, if you didn't know that, with proper paperwork and permits. If you want to know what exactly exotic pets you can own in Ohio, again, I'm posting the entire article to the description of this program, so you can learn more by clicking the link to see which exotic pets you can own in Ohio.
You know what else you can own?
What's that?
A dog. Get a dog.
Yeah, dogs are good. Yeah.
Like, stop shaking the trees for the raccoons to fall out and start petting them. It just don't work that way.
A raccoon would be a tricky pet. I'll give you that, because they're not. They wouldn't be an easy animal.
I'm not interested. Not interested at all.
The rabies alone make it challenging.
Yeah. Listen, she can't have rabies and neither can the raccoon. I'm out on both.
Well, that's the thing. If you're sharing a meth pipe, I mean, eventually you're going to get rabies.
You would think so?
Yeah.
Or mono. One of the two is going to strike you.
Mono. I didn't hear that mono was a big thing in the raccoon community, but I guess it is. Who knew? Our next story, Wayne, has to do with... okay. So I told you before the program, eventually we get into people hitting each other with food.
Yeah.
We're there.
Let's go.
All right.
I'm in.
Where does this take place? This has got to be Florida. And most of the times people hitting each other... It is Florida. See, I told you. Most of the time when people are hitting each other with food, it's in Florida. This has to do with a nurse battering her wife with cheesy nachos. I don't get what hitting people with food does, but...
I was at a baseball game over the weekend and my kids had nachos, and usually it's like the stadium serves think high school nachos, right? It's like those big, massive, super cheap tortilla chips and that like super generic nacho cheese.
Yes.
My kids had them this weekend and there was something, but they were hitting the spot. I could have bathed in that cheese sauce.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I know this is besides the point. I'm hungry, but either way, nachos are fantastic.
You know who makes that really bad cheese sauce in a can? Old Dutch. If you go get it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in the grocery store, you can get it, but they charge like $3 a can.
I can't get Old Dutch products in Nashville.
No,
because the amount of Old Dutch stuff that I wish I had down here. And the other thing, let me tell you, if you move out of the state of Minnesota, something you will miss. Everyone's like, visit the state fair. It's epic. Go to US Bank Stadium, see a Vikings game. There's these handful of things that like Minnesota is like, no, skip all of that. Go to the grocery store, get a bag of Doritos, and get top tater.
Yes,
and then go sit in your hotel room. That's all you need to know about the state of Minnesota, and then fly back to wherever the hell you came from.
Yeah, you can't get top of the tater. I have relatives in Florida that miss top of the tater. They're like, if you're coming down here, can you get us a nut goodie bar and top of the tater?
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
So good. Oh, sorry.
No,
this is the obese portion of the program. Come back later for more crime stories.
This is where we talk food for half hour.
Yeah, right. Oh, my BMI is going up just listening to this story.
Well, this nurse has been accused of shoving cheesy nachos down the leggings of her wife. During it. It's getting a little hot in here, isn't it? During a 3 a.m. domestic battery in Florida, according to police. Investigators say that the 40-year-old victim was making nachos with nacho cheese in the kitchen when her spouse, 39-year-old Allison Swan, told her she shouldn't be eating this late and made a comment about her weight. Oh, that's catty.
Oh, yeah, wow.
You don't want to do that. And see, you thought it was only misogynist males that did this, ladies. No, it turns out the ladies do this to ladies. See? Is that a bad comment? Should I not have said
No,
that?
just what I had. See, anytime Tim and I are having a conversation or when we were doing our podcast before, our jokes are like Legos. Tim will say something and then I add a punchline to his punchline and then he'll come back and like add a punchline to the bottom. So the punchline I had, I'm going to stand back and applaud Tim's punchline.
Okay.
I love that.
Okay.
There you go.
Sure.
That's keep it safe for now.
Okay. During the argument that ensued, Swan, who had been playing video games in the living room, walked over to her spouse and grabbed a handful of the cheesy nachos and shoved them down the back of the victim's leggings.
Ooh.
Dinner for later? Wait, we're not in not safe for work territory. So I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry, but
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's.
When the victim, who was also a registered nurse, subsequently sought to change her clothes, Swan allegedly dragged her to the floor and shoved her fingers into either side of her mouth. And
she fish hooked her?
Yeah, and then hooked him like a fish.
Oh, well, to be fair, when you said shoved fingers inside, I was like, where are we going with this, Tim?
I know, foreplay? No. Allison then continued to batter her by grabbing her head and slamming it into the floor multiple times. Someone's on a diet.
Where did the nachos come into this?
I don't know.
Like, how do you start at shoving nachos down pants and then end up curb stomping somebody?
Right?
That escalated very quickly.
It takes a wrong turn at Albuquerque somewhere. A friend of the victim called 911 to report hearing via an open phone line Swan striking her spouse. When police responded to the couple's Port St. Lucie residence on Saturday morning, Swan denied that a physical altercation occurred. She claimed her wife had been in a drunken rage and had thrown the plate of nachos and rolled around and covered herself in nacho cheese. Oh, that is the worst excuse ever. So she did it to herself.
What?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. However, an examination of the victim's leggings revealed what appeared to be nacho cheese on the interior backside, consistent with her story. A substance resembling nacho cheese was found smeared on a wall. The victim also had a knot on her forehead and a scratch on her right arm. And while Swan claimed her spouse had thrown the nachos, cops found the ceramic plate they were prepared on was completely intact. Swan, yeah, that's going to get you in some trouble. Swan was arrested for domestic battery, a misdemeanor. She was freed from the county jail Sunday morning after posting only how much bond here, Wayne? I love playing this game with my co-host.
Ooh,
how much bond?
Hang on. Let me grab. So this coin is going to represent $10,000. Okay.
Okay.
Under 10, I'm going to say $5,000.
Now you would think, because we're talking major assault here, fish hooking the cheeks.
Yeah.
Banging them up and down on the floor. There's a major nacho assault in the stockings. We got some major play here. Lower
than $5,000.
Yep. It's Florida. Keep in mind, it's Florida. We get assaults all the time.
Oh, so I don't even need to flip the coin. $500.
Lower. I'll give you one more guess.
$75.
A little bit higher. $250 for the bond. For all the sectors.
That's kind of gangster to be able to say I got arrested and then I posted my bond. How much was? It doesn't matter how much it was.
Yeah, I don't even pay that much for the light bill.
Honestly.
As a condition of her release, Swan was ordered to have no contact with the victim, and she must stay away from the woman's car, place of employment, and home. Since Swan resides with the victim, she may return to the residence accompanied by police to retrieve her belongings. So there you go.
Unreal. Well, who gets to keep the chips?
I think they pretty much got mushy inside the stocking, and that was it. That was pretty much the end of the program right there.
I'll eat mushy chips. No, that's not. And don't read into that. I'm talking about chips.
You'll eat mushy chips in a stocking. Well, do you believe in escalation? Because we go from mushy snacks in a stocking to a man who was convicted of attacking his family because he didn't like his dinner.
I mean, I've been upset that dinner was gone or cold by the time I got home, but I've never hit nobody over it.
But we go to Georgia for this one. So we're going to Catoosa County, Georgia. A North Georgia jury has convicted a Tennessee man. Ooh, we're kind of going by way of your state here, of attacking his family because of the way dinner was prepared, according to prosecutors. 43-year-old Stephen Smith was convicted of child cruelty, false imprisonment, and family violence battery. He was sentenced to 50 years with the first 30 years to serve in prison.
Wow.
I think they're a little more serious in Georgia.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Just because I like details of stories, what was for dinner that night?
Choke chicken. And choke cherries. Let's find out. Prosecutors say that in May of 2023, Smith was living with the mother of his 9-month-old, the baby, and the woman's 3-year-old and 5-year-old from a previous marriage. They say Smith complained about the way dinner was prepared before yelling at the family and breaking things. Well, they're not going to tell us what was for dinner. The mother locked herself and the children in a bedroom. When Smith got into the bedroom, prosecutors say he threw the 5-year-old and held the mother down on the 9-month-old, not with the 9-month-old, on the 9-month-old.
Jeez.
Smith proceeded to hold a gun to his head and demand that the woman shoot him before eventually leaving the home. So he did the old O.J. Simpson from Naked Gun thing, where he put the gun to his own head and told the woman, pull the trigger.
Wow.
Yeah.
What? Dude, where the hell do you get these stories, Tim?
I'm an expert at pulling these stories, my friend. When the baby was being examined at the hospital, they found cocaine in the baby's system. Smith later admitted to using cocaine and exposing the child to it.
Oh.
How's that? In Tennessee, he might have gotten a talking to in probation. In Georgia, he got 50 years. If you're thinking about bringing your violent crimes across the border, don't. In Northwest Georgia, we don't play, the district attorney's office wrote in a statement.
We don't play.
We don't play in Northwest Georgia.
Homie, don't play that.
Nope. So this man is getting 50 years in Catoosa County, Georgia.
What a guy. Can I tell you something?
Sure.
If you take anything out of that story as a parent, that's how not to do it.
That is how not
to do it.
That I think parenting classes are in his future if he ever gets out.
Yeah, if he ever, that kid's gonna be
That kid's
got a double ARP card, or what is it?
AARP.
AARP card. Yeah. By the time he gets out of there,
That kid'll be middle-aged and crazy. Just saying. Yeah.
well, it sounds like it runs in the family.
Well, it does. Okay. Our next story is one of those Wile E. Coyote finishes. You know, when Wile E. Coyote is chasing after the Roadrunner and eventually splat right up against the cave.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, he paints the cave opening on the cave and then he runs into it and then he hits it.
That was back when cartoons were good.
Yeah, it was back when cartoons were good. Well, this wasn't a good ending for this particular Seattle driver. He's being chased by police. He goes to jump off a bridge to get away, and the ending wasn't so good. A Seattle driver jumps off a bridge after a high-speed chase by police. We go to Seattle, where a driver is dead after jumping from the Ship Canal Bridge while attempting to flee the scene of a crash early Saturday morning. That, according to the Washington State Patrol. Let's tell you what happened, because Wile E. Coyote didn't win yet again. The incident began around 1:48 a.m. when a trooper spotted a vehicle speeding northbound on I-5 near the bridge. As the trooper approached, the vehicle attempted to flee, but quickly caused a 3-car collision. Despite damage from the crash, including the loss of the right front tire on the vehicle continued briefly before coming to a stop on the side barrier of the bridge. The driver then exited the car and jumped over the barrier in an attempt to escape. That's the person, by the way. The driver then exited the car, jumps over the barrier in an attempt to escape. He must have thought there was water below. But guess what, Wayne? There's no water below. He didn't survive the fall to the street below. Sound effects.
I mean, it's not funny.
I pay a ton for him.
But, I mean, he's obviously not from that part of town then, right?
I don't think he was. No.
And at what point does he go, oh, crap, there's no water?
Probably right before he hit. They talk about how when you're about to take that fatal fall, and then your spirit probably leaves your body before you hit. So then that way I bet you
I hope so.
I bet you he checked out like right before he hit. He probably was just like, I'm out of here. And he,
see ya. Goodbye.
Yeah. I don't think he survived it. Or he probably had a massive heart attack before he hit, just thinking he was going to die.
Ugh.
Yeah.
My heart. Ugh. I don't know what I clicked on Twitter, but as I scroll through that, I get videos like that, like people jumping and stuff like that.
Oh,
I don't know why. I never watched till the end. My God, I'm like, what2 happened to the half naked broads? Why do I got these guys hopping off buildings now?
Where are my half naked broads? Why am I?
Yeah, you're killing me over
Why
here.
am I watching jumpers? A passenger in the vehicle, by the way, was taken into custody. Troopers noted that the vehicle was not reported stolen, but was missing license plates. That incident is still under investigation. So there you go.
Stolen. It'll happen.
All right. We just recently had May the 4th, Star Wars Day. Turns out that Nebraska
virgins everywhere were celebrating.
Oh boy, were they ever! They were in heaven for at least one day. And then,
may the Force be with you.
By the way, Revenge of the 5th is the next day, so it was a 2-day celebration.
Oh yeah. Because what's better than not knowing what? Never mind. Is this the same? Is this? Or do I gotta wait?
You gotta wait for one more story.
I'll wait.
Okay. Yeah.
It was a good one.
Well, go ahead and let it loose. Go ahead.
Respectful of your. Gonna say.
You were breaking up there, but go ahead.
I just want to say these Star Wars fans. You got me?
Yep. Go ahead.
These Star Wars fans want to celebrate Star Wars back-to-back days, right?
Yep.
Why are you going to spend 2 days celebrating? You don't know what the inside of a woman feels like.
Oh! Wow.
I'm just kidding. That's a joke. You guys probably get it all the time with each other's lightsabers. Anyway, back to Tim. That's a joke. You guys are great. I love everybody equally.
Yikes.
You're editing that out of the show, right?
No.
I don't blame you. It's fine.
You got the cojones to stand up and say it. I don't have the cojones to edit it out.
It's fine.
So anyways, so May the 4th was Star Wars Day. Revenge of the 5th, of course,
Yeah.
is supposed to be Cinco de Mayo, but some of them don't recognize it. So this took place on May 9th because evidently this kid was celebrating way past.
Yeah.
Who knew? A Nebraskan is jailed for lightsaber attacks. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Just hitting you on the head. Zoom.
I told you not to mess with me.
I'm just a Jedi.
The defendant, are you ready for this? Who's 25 years old. I'm going to show you a picture of him. Here he is. This guy right here. This dweeb right here.
He couldn't find a lady's undergarments with Google Maps.
Struck his neighbor and her 7-year-old with a lightsaber.
You guys are bothering me.
Because he's got the one with the sound effect.
And then he ran back to the Millennium Falcon known as his parents' basement to hide out.
Yes, he did. And we're going to Nebraska for this one. A Nebraska man is behind bars on a pair of felony charges, because it's a felony to hit somebody with your lightsaber, for allegedly striking a female neighbor and the woman's 7-year-old daughter with a Star Wars lightsaber. Investigators allege that Obi-Wan Aiden Orion White, 25 years old. Actually, I added the Obi-Wan part, but his name is Aiden Orion White. First struck the girl while she was playing with other children in the front yard of her Auburn home, while the child's mother, 37-year-old Sandra Lunsman, confronted White. He yelled at her,
I'm not in the mood. Get back in your fucking house.
What?
Yep. White then allegedly charged Lunsman wielding his lightsaber while humming the Flight of the Jedi song or whatever it is from Star Wars, I'm sure, according to an arrest affidavit. And he had his little lightsaber. And he's like,
I can hear his ringtone now. It's exactly what it is, too.
Hang on, I'm getting a phone call.
Aiden struck Lunsman on her right arm and shoulder, reported a sheriff's deputy. Both Lunsman and her daughter said they were in pain following the lightsaber strikes, but not too much. It wasn't anything, a little Curad Band-Aid and a little bit of bacitracin couldn't cure. I'm sure he didn't swing that hard. Two neighbors told the cops they witnessed White hitting the victims with the lightsaber, which investigators described as a higher quality device, approximately 3.5 feet long, constructed of metal and thick plastic. Oh, so he bought the professional ones that you battle with. Yeah.
Okay. There's no such thing as a professional lightsaber. It's made up. It's fake. Okay? It's fake.
Seriously, there's professional lightsabers that these Jedi battle with. And I'll have to send you the video sometime so you can laugh. But
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Don't waste text messages on that with me. Sorry.
I'm going to get a bunch of emails on this.
I know, because I have one. I have one on my mantle.
But here's the deal. Anybody that's getting all Becky butthurt over it, we're just joking. We're just having a great time.
Butthurt.
Enjoy what you enjoy. Tim and I enjoy half-naked, oiled-up men wrestling. Okay, like what? Everybody's got their thing. At least your characters you like are fully clothed.
Isn't Becky Butthurt wrestling on Raw tonight?
Listen, Becky Butthurt getting Raw tonight. You know what I'm saying? What? It's fine.
Where was I in this? Okay, so so yes, 3.5 feet long metal and plastic device. It was a professional lightsaber. The lightsaber, a deputy noted, could cause significant pain and injury when used to strike an individual. according to this guy. During police questioning, White reportedly confessed to the attack, saying it was unacceptable behavior for which he wanted to apologize. While cordial with cops, White would have profane and angry outbursts that included him blaming the victims for a rise in his rent. He also warned of future problems for Lunsman and her child. Oh, he's on the dark side of the force.
Uh-oh. He's a bad guy.
Yeah, he's a Sith. And there are always two. So there's a Sith master somewhere in here. Wait.
Well, yeah, something tells me he plays both characters.
Yeah. The lightsaber was seized by police as evidence. Oh, never separate a Jedi from his lightsaber. I'm just telling you right now.
That's dangerous.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Can't do that.
I mean, seriously, you got better odds of taking the meth pipe from a raccoon. You know what I mean? That's called a callback in the business, kids.
That is. That's a callback. White was charged with a criminal complaint with 2 felony assault counts. He is being held in lieu of $50,000 bail, according to a May 6th commitment order scheduled for a June 3rd court appearance. Let's hope there's no Star Wars openings then. White has been ordered by a judge to undergo a competency evaluation. Better yet, he would like a Padawan test, not a competency evaluation. He would like to be tried as a true Jedi, if he would. So please, if you would. Okay, it's time now for our Not Safe for Work portion of our program. All bets are off. Hide your kids in the closets. Put in your earbuds if you're at work. Tell your boss to go take a lunch break because we're about to get dirty up in this mug.
Tits.
Wow, not yet. We do it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now say it.
Tits.
There you go.
I've been hanging on to that the whole show.
Okay, there you go. Well,
all right.
Let loose there, Tourette's.
Tits, titties. Sorry.
All right.
Great source of nutrition. Anyway, back to you, Tim.
All right, thanks. We start off in Hartford, Connecticut, where a Connecticut pair are arrested for prostitution and a transaction that took place where, Wayne? At the state police barracks.
Oh, I was going truck stop, but to be fair, when you were talking about prostitution and you said trans, I didn't expect action to come after that. So I was wondering where you were going with this whole thing. Anytime you're talking about paying for sexual pleasure, use a different word than transaction.
Yes. Well,
because is it space action?
No.
Or is it transaction? One word.
Transaction. 2 Connecticut residents were placed in custody following a prostitution transaction at the state police barracks on early Tuesday morning. At around 12:31 p.m., troopers tried to pull into the parking lot or pull out, you know what I mean, at the out of Troop H or Hartford parking lot when they saw a sports car blocking the gated entryway. Oh, that's not, park. They don't like it when you're parked in front of their parking lot and you're, yeah.
I mean, to be fair, if you're quick, ain't nobody going to notice anyway.
Yeah, if you hurry up. Since the entrance was blocked, the trooper went up to the parked vehicle and saw both occupants were undressed and had engaged in lewd activities. The reason I stumble is because I got to look at their faces, and there they are. These are the 2 occupants that were engaged in lewd activities.
He seems like a guy that could meet a nice lady, and that's her.
That's who he met. Yeah, head on,
Oof.
so to speak.
I would have been like, "Can you break a 5?"
Can you break a 5? You would spend.
I wouldn't have gotten very far with that one, unless she's got the same teeth effect that the raccoon had in the previous story. I'm not interested in that lady.
Can you break this roll of quarters? They were both asked to compose themselves and step out of the car. As troopers spoke to the operator, they noticed signs of impairment and asked him to perform a standardized field sobriety test, which he, of course, failed. I think you can see why if you saw the picture and video.
I would have to be under the influence. I'd have to be that school bus driver drunk to touch that lady. And I'm built like a goddamn melted candle. Okay, like I got body by love sack over here, and I wouldn't touch that lady.
When police spoke to the passenger, she did not admit to a transaction made of any kind at first. She was just naked because she loves to feel the breeze. But troopers saw 3 $10 bills that were found at the top of her purse. That's probably 2 $10 bills too many.
Yeah, can I tell you something? The 2 of the 3 were in there already. Okay?
Yeah, they were.
Okay.
That was her whole night's earnings.
Oy vey. Listen, I'm not one to talk about looks. But if it was between a fistful of sandpaper and this lady, I'd be going home alone.
I should have took a sip there. She then admitted to police that she engages in sex work. But does it engage her? That's what we want to know, folks. Does it engage her?
Listen, back to the Chicago hot dog story.
Yes.
This lady gives hot dog in a hallway vibes. Honestly.
Oh, no.
I'll tell you right now.
Oh, no. It was also revealed that the passenger of the vehicle was also in possession of suspected narcotics. Go figure. And narcotics paraphernalia that were later found to be fentanyl and crack cocaine. Which the guy who was paying her for the probably had to be on crack.
Yeah. I would have had to been on stuff they haven't discovered yet.
Yeah. Officials identified the driver of the vehicle as 34-year-old Willie Farrell of Bloomfield and the passenger is 48-year-old Deandra Lysick of Hartford. Farrell was placed in custody and is now facing the following charges: illegal operation of a motor vehicle under the influence of alcohol or drugs, improper parking, criminal trespass of the 3rd degree, soliciting sexual acts in exchange for sexual conduct, and just plain poor taste. I made that last one up.
Listen, should be charged. That should be legit. That should lead the pack.
He's being released on how much of a bond? Give me a price tag here. 1 million, 2 million? No, I mean, it's got to be.
Are you kidding me? To be honest, I think they probably looked at him, saw the charges he had, looked at her, and put him down a little bit.
Put him down. They shot him.
He's like, you're on. He goes, you're on enough of that to be next to that.
They looked at him and shot him in the dick.
Yeah, they're like, listen, this is an upgrade. I'm gonna say, I feel like anytime you ask this, it's going to be ridiculously low. I'm gonna say $1,000.
Go higher.
15.
$10,000 bond.
That still seems low.
Well, they had to teach him a lesson. Lysick was also arrested and facing the following charges: use of drug paraphernalia, possession of a controlled substance, criminal trespass of the 3rd degree, soliciting sexual acts in exchange for sexual conduct, and parking while ugly. She was held on a $1,000 bond. That's it. And expected to appear at Hartford Superior Court on May 6th. So there you go. All right.
Well,
this next one, if you're holding on this next one, is gonna kill you. Literally gonna kill you. Border officers say they apprehended a woman transporting fentanyl in her vagina. I can tell you have no comment. Or do you?
Who put it up there? Who's retrieving it?
There's a pretty funny comment here.
Like, do you tie a string to it so it's built for easy retrieval? I don't understand.
We'll get to it.
Okay.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers at a crossing in Texas seized 113 grams of fentanyl earlier this week. I want you to think about the storage capacity and 113 grams of fentanyl. Speaking of
I would have guessed that out of the last lady.
You're right. Speaking of hot dog down the hallway.
Holy hell.
Officials said the drugs allegedly were hidden in the vagina of a 40-year-old U.S. citizen who's seen a hard life.
Yeah, a lot of hard something.
Yeah. Border Patrol officials said the pedestrian border crosser was detained on Wednesday at the international crossing in El Paso. I'm going to read this as slow as possible so you can absorb this, so to speak. This is an exceptionally dangerous practice and could be lethal if the packaging were to fail during transport, said CBP El Paso Port Director Ray Provencio. It is best not to engage in smuggling activity, but especially in this form. It is risky on many levels.
I mean, listen, there's multiple baggies you don't want bursting inside of there. That's one of them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. According to federal officials, border agents selected the woman for a secondary exam just before 3 a.m. I bet they did. During the inspection.
That means butt.
Yeah. It means a lot of things.
Sorry.
During the inspection, officials said the woman told officers she had a foreign object concealed inside of her, and not her pure heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Agents took the woman to a medical facility where an exam confirmed the presence of the concealed object inside the woman, adding that the alleged package of drugs was removed from the woman's vagine. According to officials, the woman was then returned to the port of entry, and we're not talking about where she put the drugs.
I was going to say, lucky.
Where she was arrested and turned over to Homeland Security. She faces federal charges associated with the alleged smuggling act. So there you go. All right. I have to ask you this very important question. You've been spending time in the South for quite some time now. I know the proper pronunciation. Please tell me you're going to follow suit. Louisville or Louisville?
Louisville.
No.
Louisville.
It was named after a king in France.
Oh, but so I'm on the radio there. They carry one of the radio shows I do. And I visited there, and that was the first question the sales, like somebody in the sales department asked me, and I said Louisville.
Yes.
She goes, Louisville.
No.
If you live there, they say Louisville.
Because they're lazy.
Well, I can't say that.
But I can say it. They're lazy.
True.
Yeah. It was
I'm like, that's not how you pronounce it, but okay, make up whatever you need.
Right. See? Right? Because the town was named after King Louis, King Louis of France, right? There's a statue in the middle of town.
Yeah.
King Louis. It's not King Louis.
Yeah.
He didn't have a stroke. Neither did they.
He may have at some point, but it's undocumented.
Right. Well, for my sake, I'm going to sing. I'm going to say Louisville. If you proper news anchors outside the U.S. still say outside the U.S. inside the U.S. outside of Kentucky say Louisville.
Okay.
Even Casey Kasem. Even Casey Kasem said Louisville. And if Casey,
really?
Yep. And if Casey Kasem said Louisville, I say Louisville.
Go with Louisville. I'm in.
Thank you. I mean, I know you got to do what you got to do because you got to assimilate. I get it. You got ratings to earn, my man.
Yeah, exactly. I got bills to pay. Right. I got to follow suit here.
That's right. All right. Louisville police officer fired for sending an officer a nude photo. This is the officer he sent it to. It's of course a guy who sent a dick pic. We can say it.
What? And what's wrong with that?
Well, you can't do it on the job, evidently. We go to Louisville, where a Louisville Metro police officer was fired for sending a picture of his penis. I hate that word, by the way. It's very, but a picture of his penis to a female officer he was training and having inappropriate sexual conversations with. Officer Justin Lamont, we call it showing off little Lamont. See what I did there? Was terminated for multiple conduct unbecoming violations, according to an April 11th memo from Chief Paul Humphrey. Allegations of harassment and sexual abuse were not sustained. Humphrey reviewed an investigative file that included, among other evidence, body camera video and Lamont's statement and an interview with the victim, Officer Christine Silk. Her last name Silk. I don't know what that has to do with anything. You admitted to engaging in these conversations and sending her the picture while he was on duty and in uniform, the chief wrote. Your conduct has brought discredit upon the department. I will not tolerate this type of conduct by any member of the That's my compromise here. Metro Police Department. I'm still going to say E, but I'll say it like they do and slur it. How's that sound? Lamont was also accused of inappropriate conduct with a female confidential informant and other female citizens. Oh, he was just spreading the dick pics all around. Humphrey wrote in a memo obtained by WDRB News under the Open Records Law. Attorney Sarah Collins, who represents Silk, questioned why Lamont wasn't found to have violated the department's harassment or sexual abuse policies. That's the appropriate action, she said of the termination, but not the appropriate charge. Todd Lewis, who represents Lamont, said in a statement Monday that they disagree that sending another officer a sexual image was grounds alone for termination. So, just fling those dick pics out there and let them lie.
What's the officer's name? I want to find her on Instagram and send her something.
Christine Silk. What are you going to send her? Yeah.
Well, I don't work with her.
Oh, no. You can't do that.
I'm just kidding, probably.
Probably. Such circumstances not considered by the chief include, among other things, the consent of the parties involved and the overall credibility of the accuser, Lewis said, as we understand the situation. Under no circumstances is the chief deemed only one officer's version of these circumstances to be fully accurate and credible. In fact, we have already reported to the chief very serious concerns in that regard. So they're saying it's not mutual that they think that abuse is going on here. They're saying Christine was involved as well.
Oh.
Yeah. Silk filed a lawsuit against the department last year claiming she was sexually harassed by 2 male supervisors during her first year on the job. The other officer named was Officer Dale, I believe this is Cottengim, who previously received a reprimand and was transferred out of the training unit, according to a copy of his disciplinary history. The lawsuit alleges Silk was a recruit in her first week last year when one of the instructors, Cottengim, had been asking inappropriate questions about her being a single mother in front of her classmates, according to the... I know you already have formed the question in your mind. You don't have to. No, don't say it out loud. Don't say it out loud.
I'm not. I promise. I'm you okay. Complete first.
Okay. In front of her classmates, according to the lawsuit, Cottengim suggested that Silk whore herself out of childcare and go on a date, take a guy home, sleep with him, and then she would have childcare. That's not good. After Silk told a female sergeant about the conduct, an internal investigation concluded Cottengim had violated LMPD policy regarding conduct unbecoming and courtesy. He was exonerated on an allegation of sexual harassment. Upon graduating from the academy, Silk began training with Lamont, who made inappropriate comments and advances toward her. According to the suit, Lamont brushed against Silk's breast and attempted to raise her shirt, the suit claims. Another time while Silk was driving, he allegedly forced her to read a sexual fantasy he had written about her in the notes section of his phone. Well, that's making moves.
What a creep.
Yeah. In addition...
Do you think anything happened that made him think it was okay?
No. I'm getting the idea that nothing did. And the lawsuit includes text sent to Silk asking for nude pictures and a redacted picture of Lamont's penis. I didn't get any type of response last night and was sweating, laugh emoji, Lamont texted the day after, allegedly sending a picture of his penis. So he got no response.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
The anxiety... I mean, first of all, you got to have balls to send that anyway. Well, pun intended.
He probably did have a couple of balls. Yeah. So, yeah, he sent it. She didn't respond, and he went, oopsie. While Silk didn't initially file a complaint for fear she would be ostracized by other officers, she worried his conduct would continue with other young female officers and told another officer about the incidents. That officer who was in charge of training Silk after Lamont wrote a memo to a sergeant in December of 2023 describing the inappropriate conduct, according to the lawsuit, and no action was taken. After that, Silk said she was retaliated against and denied a request to be put on certain assignment because she was told there were rumors she had a sexual relationship with an officer in the same squad. The lawsuit is requesting a jury trial and unspecified monetary damages. So there's that story there. Yeah, I have a feeling he just kind of did it. And she was like, nope. And he was like, oh, yeah, haha. You know.
I mean, that's weird. I've never. I was going to word that one way, but I didn't like how it came out. So let's just say never send an unsolicited pic of your dong, gentlemen.
That's a good way to.
That's all we're going to say.
Yeah, we'll put that out there like that. I mean, not like put that out there like that, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm trying to say.
She probably wasn't impressed that he had to zoom in so much. Is really what it came down to.
Right. Well, there's
if she saw like mid thigh or a kneecap in that picture of his penis, she probably would have replied.
Oh God, no. I think you're just digging deeper here.
It's fine. Listen, there is a lady laughing somewhere right now because she gets it.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah, that's smaller than a thumb. There's no reply, I suppose. Okay, let's move on. I'm going to show you a picture here.
Hang on.
Okay.
Let's not do a story about sharing dick pics and then you go, hang on. And then the very next story before you jump in, you go, let me show you a picture.
It's not like that. It's a picture of these two people right here.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hey, but she ain't bad. Why couldn't she have been the girl in the car? And then you got the Tiger King on the other side of that.
Yeah, the Tiger King guy, yeah. Well, I'll let you be the judge on this next one. A married couple, we're going to Florida, by the way. Married couple is busted for a fingering incident at a lewd type of conduct at a Florida bar. They're fingered for lewd conduct. Fingered for lewd conduct. Get what I said here? Fingered.
Say that it was her on him. Say she did it to him. Please.
Why? Ew, she did it to him.
Because it would just be hilarious to get kicked out of a bar because you try to give your boyfriend a stool to get a stool sample from your boyfriend in front of everybody.
Well, I'll tell you exactly how this went down. A married couple was arrested Sunday evening for allegedly engaging in lewd activity at a sidewalk cafe in Florida. Oh, a sidewalk cafe. That's just nasty. 29-year-old Ryan Cook and 27-year-old Kimberly Morey were at the Where's Jubes bar in downtown St. Petersburg where the disorderly conduct occurred. According to a witness, Cook placed his hand up his wife's dress and touched her private parts, which reportedly caused a disturbance and a breach of the peace. Morey was charged with...
That's legal speak for a lot of boners. A lot of boners in the bar. You've disturbed the peace of my pants.
Morey was charged with allowing her husband to place his hand up her dress and engage in sexual conduct. Arrest affidavits do not identify the witness who fingered the frisky couple. That's horrible language in this story. Cook and Morey are charged with disorderly conduct, a misdemeanor, and possession of an open container. In other words, bottles of Captain Morgan rum. You know, Captain Morgan's kind of standing there like, da-da-da. Yeah, with his legs open. That's kind of ironic. During a court appearance on Monday, Cook and Morey pleaded no contest to the charges. A judge adjudicated them guilty and fined them each $500. The couple was subsequently freed from the county jail, much like her panties were freed from her when she got fingered that day.
And at a bar, imagine his hands were dirty.
I guess so, yeah. All right. One last palate cleanser here for you, and then we're done for today. I don't know if you watched any of the papal coverage, any of the Pope coverage when they were electing the Pope. There was a term that was misused during the Pope coverage, which I found kind of funny here, Wayne. I was going to share it here with you. It was on CBS. You know, CBS has an older demographic.
Yeah.
I'm gonna quote this to you because I thought it was kind of funny. The CBS News team is covering the papal coverage, the papal conclave. They picked an awkward time to roll out some youth slang as they're talking about how they were picking the Pope. Okay.
Yeah.
They declared the Cardinals were electing a successor to Pope Francis and that they'd be doing something during the process. And it had to do with phones, cell phones. They were trying to describe that, that there's a lack of technology inside Vatican City and inside the Sistine Chapel while they're voting. In fact, they don't even allow cell phones. So they take all the cell phones and they take them away from the Cardinals so that they can't get information from the outside inside, and nothing can disturb them. Especially, believe it or not, voting odds, because this is one of the first times they've taken voting action on and betting action on the Pope, which I thought was ridiculous. But okay, so here's the story. Live coverage of the event blanketed cable and broadcast news. It included a CBS team led by Nora O'Donnell, Tony, I believe it is DeCouple, I think his name was, Maurice Dubois, Seth Doan, Chris Livesay, commentary from Vatican analyst Delia Gallagher, Father Anthony, I believe it is Figueredo, and John Allen, who's the editor of Crux. Okay. So things take a humorous turn when the team noted that, as depicted in the film Conclave, the Cardinals wouldn't have live phones or other devices during the proceedings. They used a certain slang term to express it, but they used the wrong one.
Oh, God.
And here's the quote. John Allen says, most of them will tell you that while this is going on, they're sitting there reading their breviary. That's a book of prayers that clergy have, or praying a rosary, or doing the one thing that we know that they're not doing, which is checking Instagram, because their devices have all been confiscated. Tony DeCouple says at that point, I believe the kids call it raw dogging it. At that point, there's laughter.
Pardon me?
Right. He said, I believe the kids call it raw dogging it. At that point, the whole news team busts out laughing. And Tony goes on to say, if you're going to go through a long period of time with no electronic device, that's what he means by raw dogging it. He's trying to clarify. That's what raw dogging it is. So Delia Gallagher says, okay, right. Well, they're of a certain age, so they might be used to it. Like, she meant they might be used to going without phones, not they might be used to raw dogging it. Father Anthony then says, I just wanted to say the Cardinal we just saw come up with the black covering over his head is the Cardinals from Melbourne. Is just 45 years old, the youngest. Incredible, the youngest. Imagine if he were elected Pope. So he's trying to change the story. Now, raw dogging, for those of you who don't know, originated as slang for unprotected sex, but has evolved to include enduring any activity, usually something boring, without the benefit of wanted or needed distraction or diversion. So that's what Tony was trying to get to, the new slang of what raw dogging means.
Yeah, no, when something has been used as a descriptive term for so long, you can't change it. You can't change it. Like, perfect example. Let's say it was hot in the house and you yelled because you wanted the fan on, hey, can you do me a favor and turn that on? It's hot as hell in here. I need a blowjob. Blowjob doesn't mean turn the fan on to you, because it has a job to cool you down. Okay?
Right.
It means what it should mean.
Yeah.
And you can't change that.
Yeah, you can't change it. No. But they tried a new term on CBS, and they scared all the old folks. So
yeah,
I actually saw that live when it was happening, and I spit.
I would have loved to see your face.
I spit coke across the room. I couldn't believe that it. Not cocaine, but
I've seen your budget. There's no coke on this show.
There's no coke on this show. But I just, because I did a spit take, because I heard raw dogging and Cardinals in the same time. And normally, when there's raw dogging going on with Cardinals, it has to do with young altar boys. But it was just. So I was like, interesting.
That's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
I'm glad you ended with that joke because I figured my series of jokes would get me not invited back.
No.
I'll be like, hey man, next time you need a guest, let me know. Yeah, you know what? Funny enough, I'm booked.
Funny enough,
booked up.
We're booked solid. No, but that'll do it for today. That's Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. I want to thank Caitlin Rother for being on the show. Again, the book Body Parts is available right now. It's a reissue from 2009, but it has new information having to do with the Wayne Allen Ford case. We have a link in the description of this program so you can get that book. So thank you, Caitlin. Caitlin's going to be back with us June 3rd, and she's got a brand new book that's coming out then that we'll be promoting there. Wayne, you are available nationwide Saturday nights, right?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the city and the time, but we're in some cities during the afternoon, we're in some cities at night, and then we're in about 130 cities every Saturday night. So I try to keep an updated list on my Instagram. He's Wayne D. You can head over there. Plus, if there's any Star Wars fans that want to debate the whole, I know what a vagina is, feel free to reach out there.
I'm sure.
By the way, it's an absolute joke. It's an absolute joke.
I'm sure you'll get a few. Yeah, I'm sure you get a few that'll reach out and want to debate that. Yeah. Oh.
Sorry. A little nostalgia for you.
A little nostalgia. Yeah, but so He's Wayne D is where people should reach out and debate their Star Wars. Debate Star Wars with you. Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying anything else because I can already see Tim's face is like, oh God, can you do me a favor? So just shut up so I can hit the credits.
No, that's fine. It's fine. I'm actually getting a kick out of it.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it very much.
I appreciate you being with us. But I do want to give you your proper gravitas because you have major stars on the house party on Saturday night. It's not some dog and pony show you throw out there on Saturday night.
We put in some work, man. We the biggest names in country music hang out with us every Saturday. This Saturday it's Morgan Wallen. Mm-hmm. Next Saturday it's Chris Jansen. Jason Aldean's coming up on a future episode. So we stay busy, and I podcast all of that as well. The link to that is in my Instagram. So if you like country music, Bailey Zimmerman we just talked to. We've had Dolly Parton on before. It's legit. It's pretty cool. It's hard to believe I can say I met Dolly Parton. I sat with Dolly Parton. It was unreal.
Yeah,
unreal.
And you've had Jelly Roll on, and I mean you're doing it. You're doing it right. So. There you go.
We're trying. Yeah. We're trying out here.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's it's not like I said. It's not it's not like you're. I don't know. It's not like you're talking to Ham and Grits or whatever. The local guys down on the corner who are playing for a quarter a song. So.
Yeah. No, we're legit, man. I hate saying lucky because anything you get you've worked for, right?
Yes,
and it just things worked out in your favor. Yeah. But I've been fortunate. We'll say fortunate. We're gonna word swap there. I've been fortunate for the experiences that I've had, especially since I moved out here. So
yeah, very much so. Yes, you did an excellent job. I bow in your general direction. I'm serious, very serious. I'm not being facetious. So yeah, I
appreciate that, and I know how tough it is for you to get back up. So I appreciate you bowing.
Oh, you're between the broken bones and arthritis, my friend. I may not get back up. So there you go. I may end the show on my knees.
I will leave you on the floor there.
There you go. All right, folks. That'll do it for today. Tomorrow, Supernatural News. And then, speaking of music, Thursday, boy, do we have a show for you. I'm going to tease it as this, Wayne.
Kurt Cobain.
Yes, coming back from the dead. Only on this show on Darkness Radio. No, God, I wish I could score that.
Give us a shot Thursday. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Is that not funny?
That is.
Give us a shot, Kurt Cobain.
Actually, we are going to be talking dead rock stars on Thursday.
Ooh, I like that.
But, and here's the twist. I'm only going to give you this. I'll tell you this much. Paul Wilde is our guest on Thursday. And we're going to talk about a certain rock star who may have been a teacher of the occult.
Prince.
No.
No, damn it.
I can confidently tell you it's not him. But you'll find out Thursday. So we'll tell you more on tomorrow's program. So there you go.
Awesome.
So that'll do it for today. Wayne, I want to thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. And we will see you tomorrow for Supernatural News. For Wayne D, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for watching and listening. True Crime Tuesday.